Tonight you are not simply preparing for sleep. You are entering a chamber where thought is power and silence becomes a sculptor. As the world quiets, your mind awakens to its true authority. This hour is not ordinary. It is the workshop of your destiny. What you allow to flow into your subconscious now will rise with you in the morning as strength, as wealth, as certainty. You are not here to drift. You are here to direct. You are here to direct. You are not here to dream passively. You are here to plant commands that reality must obey. As you close your eyes, listen not with your ears alone, but with the deeper self within you, the self that governs your beliefs, your actions, and your results. Tonight I will speak to that hidden self, and what is spoken, if you permit it, will take root with unshakable permanence. You may think you are simply resting, but while your body sleeps, your mind will be at work. It will accept the seeds planted by these words. It will begin building silently, patiently, inevitably. A house free of debt, a fortune that multiplies as you breathe, the freedom to awaken by choice, not by demand. A life where your hours belong to you and your energy serves your highest vision. These are not idle wishes. They are commands impressed upon the soil of your mind, destined to grow if you allow them to. Do not approach this message as one who merely hopes. Approach it as one who has decided, for decision is the switch that activates the machinery of the mind. Tonight, decide that you will become wealthy. Decide that you will be free. Decide that you will live as master, not servant. What you decide with faith, you become. What you repeat with conviction, you embody. This is law, and tonight that law bends in your favor. So rest now. Let your body sink. Let your breathing slow. And as the words enter you, let them bypass resistance and go directly to the hidden architect of your destiny. I speak to the builder within you, and I command it to construct. There is a truth about life that is as old as the stars themselves. We become what we think about. The human mind is the most powerful instrument known to man, and yet most people walk through their days unaware of its limitless capacity. Imagine for a moment that you were given a plot of fertile land. If you planted seeds of corn, you would harvest corn. If you planted seeds of nightshade, a deadly poison, you would harvest poison. The land does not care. It simply returns to you what you plant. The mind is no different. It will return in kind whatever you allow to be planted within it. Thoughts of success, abundance, and courage will bear fruit in the form of opportunity, prosperity, and strength. Thoughts of fear, doubt, and limitation will bear fruit in the form of failure, frustration, and weakness. You cannot escape the law any more than a farmer can defy the seasons. This is the great secret, the simple but profound principle that governs all achievement. What we plant in the mind, we must inevitably harvest in the world. When we consider this law carefully, we begin to understand why men and women drift aimlessly through life, never realizing even a fraction of their potential. It is not because opportunity does not exist. Opportunity abounds for every person who chooses to see it. It is not because resources are scarce, for history shows us countless individuals who rose from poverty and obscurity to influence and abundance. The reason is simple. They allow the wrong seeds to be planted. They dwell on limitations, on fears, on excuses, and by doing so they cultivate the very conditions they wish to avoid. This is the tragic irony of human existence, that so many unknowingly use the greatest power they possess against themselves. But for the one who awakens to the truth, for the one who seizes control of his thoughts and directs them with purpose, life becomes a masterpiece of his own design. The difference between the successful and the unsuccessful is not chance, nor luck, nor fate. It is thought, focused and disciplined thought, deliberately chosen and persistently held. Now let us pause and ask a simple but life-changing question. What are you thinking about most of the time? What occupies your mind when you are at rest, when you are walking down the street, when you are lying in bed at night? For as surely as a compass points north, your dominant thoughts are guiding you toward your future. If your thoughts are filled with worry, you are moving toward situations that will validate your worry. If your thoughts are filled with resentment, you are moving toward circumstances that will justify that resentment. But if your thoughts are filled with a worthy goal, with a vision of who you can become and what you can accomplish, then you are moving toward that reality with an invisible but unstoppable force. This is why I urge you, write down your goal. Take out a sheet of paper and write in bold letters the one thing you want more than anything else. Let it be clear, let it be specific, and let it be worthy of your best effort. Place it where you can see it daily, for the act of writing it down and reading it regularly impresses it upon your subconscious, planting the seed deeply where it will grow. Every man and woman is sailing through life on a ship of their own mind. Some have a rudder and some do not. The one with a rudder, a clear goal, a definite purpose, will reach a destination with certainty. The one without a rudder will drift endlessly, tossed by the winds and currents, landing nowhere in particular and wondering why life seems unfair. The ocean is the same for both. The winds are the same for both. The currents are the same for both. The difference lies in direction. The man who knows where he is going bends every circumstance, every event, every challenge toward his purpose, while the one without direction becomes a victim of chance. The truth is, you are always steering your ship, whether consciously or unconsciously. If you do not deliberately take hold of the wheel, your fears and doubts will do the steering for you, and you may not like where they take you. Consider for a moment the extraordinary potential of your own mind. Scientists tell us that the average human being uses only a fraction of their mental capacity. And yet, even with this limited use, we have built skyscrapers that touch the clouds, machines that fly across oceans, rockets that travel into space, and medical marvels that extend life. All of these were first thoughts, intangible ideas that someone dared to plant and nurture. If mankind, with so little of his potential awakened, can accomplish so much, what might you accomplish by directing your mind fully, deliberately, and persistently? Your thoughts are builders. Every day, with every belief you reinforce, you are building the structure of your life. The question is, are you building a palace or a prison? Let me tell you a story. During the Great Depression, a young man sat in a library reading a book about success. He had no money, no prospects, and the world around him was in despair. Yet in that book he read a simple truth. A man becomes what he thinks about all day long. That young man decided, despite the bleakness of his circumstances, to think only of prosperity, only of opportunity, only of the possibility that he could make something of his life. He impressed it upon his mind so deeply that he began to see opportunities where before there were none. He acted on them with courage, and within years he rose from poverty to prosperity. What changed? Not the economy, not luck, but his thoughts. The moment he changed his inner world, his outer world began to align with it. This is not philosophy, it is law. Now this law is neutral. It works for everyone, at all times, whether or not they are aware of it. That is why it is so critical that you take control of it now. Picture yourself as a farmer holding a bag of seeds. You cannot escape planting. Every thought you entertain is a seed cast into the soil of your mind. To waste time lamenting the harvest is foolish, for the harvest only reveals what was planted months before. The wise man looks to the seeds, not the soil, not the rain, not the sun. He understands that those elements will always be present, but the seeds determine the crop. In the same way, do not waste your energy blaming circumstances, people, or fate. Look instead to the seeds you are planting with your daily thoughts, for they will reveal your future as surely as the seasons turn. I would like you to perform a simple but powerful exercise. Take your pen and write this down. I become what I think about. Say it aloud. I become what I think about. Let it echo in your mind as you go about your day. Repeat it when you rise in the morning and before you retire at night. Ingrain it so deeply that it becomes the filter through which you see the world. And when doubt arises, when fear whispers that you cannot, answer it with certainty. I become what I think about. Do this, and you will gradually redirect the very currents of your destiny. For this is not positive thinking. This is not wishful dreaming. It is law, immutable and unbreakable. And so I give you tonight the first affirmation, a truth to write upon your mind as indelibly as ink upon paper. Say it slowly, with conviction, as though engraving it upon the walls of your heart. I am one with wealth and wisdom, free of fear and doubts. Repeat it often, write it down, and let it settle deeply into the soil of your subconscious. For as you think, so you become, and as you affirm, so you plant. Let this be the beginning of a new chapter, a new harvest, a new destiny. As you drift deeper into rest, remember this truth. Your mind does not sleep when your body does. It continues its work silently, faithfully, unceasingly. Just as the heart beats without your command and the lungs draw breath without your effort, the subconscious mind accepts every impression you allow to enter it. Tonight it accepts wealth. Tonight it accepts direction. Tonight it accepts the certainty that your life is not left to chance, but is governed by the laws you choose to obey. And those laws are as unshakable as gravity itself. You will awaken tomorrow carrying within you the seeds of thought you permit to take root this very night. Let me tell you something both sobering and liberating. Most people never choose their thoughts, they inherit them. From childhood, they adopt the worries, the fears, the limitations of those around them, and they walk through life bound by invisible chains they never question. They wonder why they cannot advance, why opportunity eludes them, why they always seem to return to the same frustrations year after year. The answer is not in the world around them, it is in the soil of their mind. But for the rare individual who dares to step aside, who dares to say, "I will think for myself, I will choose what I plant," a new destiny begins. You must decide which you will be, one who drifts in the inherited current of mediocrity, or one who takes hold of the rudder and sets his course. Think of the subconscious mind as a vast, fertile valley. Every thought repeated with feeling is a seed dropped into its soil. The soil does not discriminate, it grows whatever is planted. If you plant seeds of confidence, they grow into courage. If you plant seeds of wealth, they grow into opportunity. If you plant seeds of service, they grow into reward. And if you plant weeds, fear, doubt, envy, they too will grow, strangling the life from every worthy seed in their reach. The choice of seed is always yours, but the law of harvest is unchanging. You will reap what you sow, and once you understand this, you can never again claim ignorance. You know now that every repeated thought is a seed, and every seed will grow. So ask yourself, what have you been planting? What kind of harvest are you reaping right now? If you find yourself dissatisfied, if you see a life filled with frustration, lack, or worry, understand it is not punishment. It is the natural consequence of past planting. The good news is, you can choose again. You can begin tonight. You can uproot the weeds by starving them of attention, and you can plant new seeds by feeding them with repetition and faith. This is the law by which every man and woman who has risen from obscurity to greatness has lived, whether they knew it consciously or not. They disciplined their minds, they guarded their thoughts as carefully as a banker guards his vault. They understood that nothing was more valuable than the ideas that entered their mind, because those ideas, once planted, became their reality. Now listen carefully. There is a law you must engrave in your memory, a law so simple that most dismiss it, but so powerful that it determines the entire course of your life. The law is this: your outer world mirrors your inner world. Say it with me, softly but with conviction. My outer world mirrors my inner world. Write it down if you can. Whisper it if you must. Let it pass through your lips and back into your ears until it becomes more than words. It becomes law within you. If you allow chaos within, you will see chaos without. If you cultivate order within, you will see order without. If you dwell on poverty within, you will see poverty without. And if you dwell on abundance within, you will see abundance without. The reflection is perfect. It never fails. Consider how often we look to the world and complain about conditions, when in reality the world is but a mirror. To curse the mirror is foolishness. To blame the reflection is wasted energy. The wise man, upon seeing an image he dislikes, does not strike the glass, he adjusts himself. The same is true of life. The adjustment must always be made within. Do not waste your nights worrying about external forces. Use them instead to plant within yourself the image of the life you want to see reflected. If you desire peace, picture peace. If you desire wealth, picture wealth. If you desire freedom, picture freedom. And persist in that picture until it becomes the strongest impression in your mind. Soon enough, the reflection must change. This is why repetition is so critical. The subconscious mind does not respond to casual wishes, but to repeated impressions. One thought whispered once is like a single raindrop on the soil. It vanishes without effect. But a thought repeated again and again, charged with emotion and faith, is like a steady rain. It soaks the ground. It penetrates deeply. It awakens growth. This is why I urge you to make affirmations part of your daily routine, not as empty phrases, but as living commands. Each time you repeat them, you water the seeds of your new life. Each time you speak them, you give life to the picture you desire. Now as you rest, let this affirmation settle within you. Say it with me. I am the master of my mind, and my mind creates my destiny. Whisper it if you wish. Write it on the page of your imagination. Let it echo as you drift into sleep, so that when you rise tomorrow, it is the first thought that greets you. For if you truly believe it, if you hold it with persistence, your destiny cannot remain unchanged. You are the master, never the victim. You are the architect, never the beggar. Remember, your outer world mirrors your inner world, and from this night forward, let the inner world be rich, ordered, and filled with vision. As your body sinks further into rest, know that this quiet is not empty. It is alive with creation. While the world outside sleeps, the workshop of your mind remains open, hammering, shaping, constructing. And what it builds depends entirely on the blueprints you give it. Every image you hold, every phrase you repeat, every belief you accept is a line drawn upon that blueprint. and your subconscious, faithful and tireless, will build according to that design. This is why discipline of thought is not optional, it is essential. You cannot afford to hand over your blueprint to chance. You must design with purpose, with clarity, with conviction. For as surely as a builder follows the architect's plan, your life will follow the plan impressed upon your mind. Discipline is the price of greatness. Let us not shy away from the word. Most hear it and think of restriction, of denial, of suffering. But discipline is not chains, it is keys. Discipline unlocks the doors that remain forever closed to the undisciplined. The man without discipline lives at the mercy of impulse. He begins much but completes little. He promises much but delivers little. His life is scattered, his energy wasted, his results small. But the man of discipline directs his time, his thoughts, his habits. He may sacrifice in the moment, but he gains tenfold in the end. The disciplined man does not eat all of his harvest at once. He saves seed for the next season. He sacrifices today's ease for tomorrow's abundance. And the world in the end calls him lucky, when in truth he was only disciplined. You must understand that sacrifice is not loss, it is investment. Every act of discipline is a seed planted toward your vision. Every moment of restraint is a brick laid in the structure of your future. When you resist the temptation of immediate comfort, you purchase tomorrow's freedom. When you refuse to waste your hours, you buy the currency of success. The man who gives himself to sleep without purpose will wake in poverty, but the one who directs even his rest toward growth by feeding his subconscious with truth will awaken in strength. Sacrifice and discipline are the twin laws of greatness. Without them, success is impossible. With them, it is inevitable. Think of the stories of men and women who achieved extraordinary things. They were not always the most gifted, nor the most fortunate. They were often those who endured hardship, who went without, who sacrificed comfort in pursuit of a goal. The athlete who rises before dawn to train while others sleep, the student who studies late into the night while others waste their time, the entrepreneur who reinvests his profits while others spend theirs on fleeting pleasures. At first they appear foolish, at first they appear deprived, but in the end, their results speak louder than opinion. They stand tall, while others wonder why life never rewarded them. The answer is clear. Discipline and sacrifice wrote their destiny. Now hear this law and engrave it deeply. Success demands payment in advance. Say it softly. Success demands payment in advance. Write it down. Commit it to memory. No man collects the harvest before planting. No builder collects rent before raising the walls. No one earns freedom before sacrificing bondage. Life always requires the price first, the reward after. To expect otherwise is to live in illusion. But once you accept this law, you hold the master key. For you no longer complain about effort, no longer resent sacrifice. You embrace them as the very path to what you desire. You know that every step, every act of discipline, every moment of sacrifice is a down payment on the life you seek. Consider for a moment what price you are willing to pay. Do you desire freedom? Then you must sacrifice dependency. Do you desire wealth? Then you must sacrifice waste. Do you desire health? Then you must sacrifice indulgence. The formula never changes. Something must always be traded. But what is traded is never lost, it is transformed. You trade what is small for what is great, what is temporary for what is lasting, what is shallow for what is deep. The undisciplined call it loss. The wise call it investment. And when the harvest comes, the difference is plain for all to see. Remember, comfort is the enemy of greatness. Comfort whispers that tomorrow will do. Comfort urges you to rest when you should rise, to spend when you should save, to indulge when you should resist. Comfort promises ease but delivers mediocrity. Those who worship comfort live dull lives, unnoticed, unremarkable, unfulfilled. But those who resist comfort, those who embrace sacrifice, those who walk the harder road become the giants of history. They are remembered, they are respected, they are revered. Not because life favored them, but because they mastered themselves, and when a man masters himself, he becomes unstoppable. So as you rest tonight, let this affirmation take root. I embrace discipline and sacrifice, for they are the price of greatness. Say it gently, but with conviction. Whisper it as you drift into deeper sleep. Let it echo until it is no longer a phrase, but a belief. For when the subconscious accepts it, your actions will align. You will rise earlier, you will persist longer, you will endure more, and you will accomplish what others cannot. This is the law, and the law cannot fail. Clarity is power. Without a clear aim, the strongest bow cannot strike the target. Without a definite purpose, the most gifted individual drifts aimlessly, tossed by every current, wasted by every wind. As you rest tonight, understand that life responds not to vague wishes but to definite intentions. A mind that does not know what it wants becomes a servant to circumstances. A mind that decides with precision bends circumstances into obedience. This is why men and women who set clear goals appear almost unstoppable. They have placed before their subconscious a picture so sharp, so vivid, that the entire machinery of thought, habit, and action begins to align with it. Think of your subconscious as an obedient servant, powerful beyond measure, but dependent upon the instructions it receives. If you command it with vagueness, I want to be successful, I want to be happy, it is like sending a servant into the market without a list. It returns confused, empty-handed, or with things you did not need. But if you give it clear direction, I will earn this amount, I will create this business, I will build this home, it moves like an army, gathering resources, alerting you to opportunities, strengthening your resolve. Precision is the difference between a dream and a command. The subconscious does not act upon ambiguity, it acts upon certainty. This is why writing down your goals is more than ritual. It is law in action. The moment you put pen to paper, you transform a desire into a decision. You give your subconscious the coordinates of your destination, and once the destination is set, every part of your being begins to cooperate with it. Your eyes notice opportunities you once ignored. Your mind conceives solutions it once overlooked. Your spirit draws strength it once lacked. The goal becomes a magnet pulling you forward, while distractions lose their grip. This is the power of definiteness of purpose. Without it, you wander. With it, you advance. Now imagine a ship leaving the harbor. Without a chart, without a destination, it is at the mercy of the sea. It may drift for years and never reach a port. But give that ship a course, a definite harbor to reach, and it will cut through storms, resist winds, and arrive precisely where intended. Life is no different. The individual without a goal is like the drifting ship adrift, uncertain, frustrated. The individual with a goal is like the charted vessel, focused, determined, victorious. The sea is the same for both, but the outcome is worlds apart, and the difference is purpose. So I ask you tonight, what is your harbor? Where are you sailing? Do not answer with generalities. Do not say, I want to be happy, or I want to be successful. These are clouds with no form. Define it, write it, picture it so clearly that you can describe it in detail. What does it look like? What does it feel like? Where are you when you achieve it? Who is with you? What does your life look like once it is realized? Feed your subconscious with these details, and it will begin silently and powerfully to build bridges toward that picture. This is not fantasy. It is the very mechanism by which every great achievement has been born. Understand this law: what the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Say it softly. What the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Write it down. Whisper it until it becomes etched upon your heart. The human mind is not limited by circumstance, but by vision. What you cannot see, you cannot seize. What you cannot define, you cannot design. But once conceived, once believed, no force can stop its eventual creation. This is why the greatest gift you can give yourself tonight is clarity. Think of the architect before he builds. He does not wander onto the land with vague hopes. He drafts a plan. He defines every line, every wall, every room. Only then does the structure rise. So too must you draft the blueprint of your life. Do not fear being specific. Do not fear being bold. The clearer the plan, the stronger the pull. The more definite the picture, the faster the result. General wishes dissolve in the wind. Definite goals endure like stone. And the subconscious, like a faithful builder, works day and night to bring the blueprint to life. So tonight, as you sink into deeper rest, let this affirmation be planted in the fertile soil of your mind. I have a clear purpose, and my mind builds my life around it. Repeat it softly. Let it linger as your final thought before sleep takes you. With this affirmation, you give the architect within a precise plan, and as you dream, as you rest, the building begins. You need not force it. You need only believe it. For what the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Attitude is the compass of destiny. It is the invisible signal you broadcast to the world, and the world always responds in kind. A man with a defeated attitude finds defeat wherever he looks. A woman with a bitter attitude finds reasons for bitterness in every encounter. But the one who carries an attitude of calm confidence, of determined expectation, draws to himself opportunities, allies, and outcomes that others call fortune. In truth, it is not fortune at all, it is law. Life reflects your inner state with perfect accuracy. Attitude is not a small matter, it is everything, for it colors every thought, every action, and every result. Think of two men entering the same room. One carries himself with poise, with eyes lifted, with the assurance that he belongs. The other carries himself with hesitation, with lowered gaze, with the belief that he is less. The room itself is the same, the people are the same, the opportunities within are the same. Yet their experiences differ completely. One attracts respect, conversation, perhaps even opportunity. The other goes unnoticed or dismissed. What made the difference? Not circumstance, not fate, but attitude. And this truth extends to every corner of life. The way you see yourself determines the way the world sees you. Your attitude is not fixed. It is chosen. Just as you select clothes for the day, you select the attitude with which you will face it. And like clothing, it announces you before you speak a word. This is why it is critical to guard your mental wardrobe. Do not wear the rags of fear or the tattered garments of doubt. Clothe yourself each morning in confidence, in gratitude, in determination. For whatever attitude you wear, you will meet its reflection in the mirror of life. If you greet the world with complaint, it will hand you more reasons to complain. If you greet it with expectancy, it will hand you more reasons to expect. The law is unbroken and unbreakable, as within so without. Attitude is cause, and environment is effect. Many imagine it the other way around, that conditions determine outlook. But the wise understand that outlook determines conditions. The same storm that destroys one ship strengthens another. The same trial that breaks one man builds another. The difference lies not in the storm, but in the response. If you meet hardship with despair, it multiplies. If you meet hardship with determination, it transforms into stepping stones. Attitude is the alchemy of life. It takes raw circumstance and turns it into gold or into dust, depending upon the spirit in which it is received. So I tell you now, guard your attitude as you would guard a treasure chest. It is the currency with which you purchase your experiences. A poor attitude spends itself quickly and returns nothing. A rich attitude multiplies itself and returns in abundance. Say it softly now and let it settle. My attitude shapes my world. Whisper it again. My attitude shapes my world. Write it if you can, and let it become a law engraved within. For once you truly accept this, you cease blaming circumstances. You cease cursing fate. You realize that the lever of power has always been in your hands. Consider the story of two salesmen sent to a distant land. Upon arrival, one wrote back in despair, "No one here wears shoes, there is no market." The other wrote back with joy, "No one here wears shoes, the market is limitless." The same fact, the same condition, the same land, yet one saw defeat, and the other saw fortune. What made the difference? Attitude. And history shows us that the man with the rich attitude went on to build an empire, while the other returned home empty-handed. Remember this always. Life is neutral. It carries no bias, no preference, no prejudice. It reflects you back to yourself. Now let us take this law and seal it into the subconscious with repetition. Say it gently but with unwavering conviction. I choose an attitude of confidence, gratitude, and expectancy. Let it pass through your lips. Let it echo in the chamber of your mind. Let it be written across the pages of your subconscious so clearly that no circumstance can erase it. For when you rise tomorrow, you will find your world reflecting it. Confidence will attract opportunity. Gratitude will attract provision. Expectancy will attract fulfillment. This is not theory, this is law. So as you rest deeper tonight, know this: your attitude is the rudder of your ship. It determines direction, it determines destination, it determines destiny. Set it deliberately, hold it firmly, and it will carry you to shores that others only dream about. Whisper once more as sleep takes you, I choose an attitude that builds my destiny, and let the law do the rest. Wealth is not an accident. It is not a privilege granted to a chosen few, nor a game of chance where the lucky emerge with abundance and the unlucky remain in lack. Wealth is law. It flows according to a principle as steady as the rising sun. Your rewards in life will always be in exact proportion to your contribution. This is not opinion, this is truth. A man who contributes little, who gives little of value, who withholds his gifts, will always receive little in return. A man who pours out service, who multiplies value, who makes himself indispensable, will always find abundance flowing back to him. Life mirrors contribution with perfect fairness. Think of the soil. It does not grant harvest because it favors one farmer over another. It grants harvest because seed has been sown, because labor has been given, because care has been taken. The soil rewards contribution, and so does life. A businessman who enriches his customers, who serves them faithfully, will see wealth return to him multiplied. The craftsman who perfects his skill and offers excellence will never be without demand. The teacher who gives knowledge with passion will see the rewards of gratitude, respect, and often prosperity. The equation is flawless. Service equals reward, and greater service equals greater reward. Now many resist this law. They seek shortcuts, schemes, ways to gain without giving, to reap without sowing. And for a time they may appear to succeed, but it is illusion, for the law cannot be broken. Whatever is gained without contribution crumbles quickly. Whatever is built without service collapses under its own weight. The enduring fortunes, the legacies that stand the test of generations, are always built upon this bedrock, contribution. Ask yourself then, not how can I take more from life, but how can I give more to life? For the one who serves richly will always live richly. Service is not slavery, it is mastery. The servant who works with resentment gains little, but the one who gives with creativity, with energy, with joy, rises above. For his service becomes a magnet, drawing favor, opportunity, and wealth. Look at any thriving enterprise, and you will find at its heart a devotion to service. Products that solve problems, solutions that ease burdens, experiences that uplift lives. Wealth follows them as a shadow follows form. This is why you must shift your thinking. Stop asking how you can get more, and start asking how you can give more. The moment you make that shift, the current of abundance begins to move in your direction. Hear this law and engrave it deeply. My rewards are in exact proportion to my contribution. Say it softly now. Whisper it as truth. My rewards are in exact proportion to my contribution. Write it if you can. Let it be more than words. Let it be law within you. For once you accept this, your mind begins to search for ways to contribute more, to serve better, to offer greater value. And as you increase your contribution, life must increase your reward. It is as certain as the sunrise. Think of the bee and the flower. The bee seeks nectar, but in gathering it, it serves the flower by carrying pollen. Both prosper through the exchange. So it is with man. You seek wealth, but in seeking it, you must serve. And in serving, you receive. This is nature's law, and nature never fails. The man who tries to take without serving violates the law and finds himself frustrated. The man who aligns with the law by giving freely, generously, and with excellence finds himself rewarded in measures beyond what he imagined. Let this truth guide you. Wealth is not pursued, it is attracted. It is drawn like iron to a magnet by the force of your service. The more valuable you become, the more wealth you attract. The more indispensable your contribution, the more secure your fortune. You cannot chase wealth directly, it flees. But if you chase excellence in service, wealth follows like a shadow. This is why the greatest fortunes in history were not built by men who sought money alone, but by those who sought to serve on a grand scale. So as you rest tonight, plant this affirmation in the soil of your subconscious. I multiply my wealth by multiplying my service. Say it gently. Repeat it as you drift deeper into sleep. Let it become the heartbeat of your being, so that when you rise, every action, every thought, every opportunity is directed by it. For your rewards in life will always be in exact proportion to your contribution, and the more you give, the more you shall receive. Responsibility is the cornerstone of freedom. Until a man accepts full responsibility for his life, he remains a child, blaming circumstance, fate, or others for what he lacks. But the moment he declares, I am the cause of my results, I am the author of my story, he becomes free. For though responsibility may feel heavy, it is the only weight that grants strength. To reject responsibility is to reject power. To accept it is to seize the wheel of destiny. Tonight, let this truth settle deeply. No one is coming to save you, and no one is holding you back. You are the captain. You are the master. You are the one who steers. Look around and you will see the tragedy of men who spend their lives pointing fingers. They blame their parents, their employers, their governments, their neighbors. They see themselves as victims of forces too great to overcome. And because they believe it, they make it so. For the subconscious accepts their belief of helplessness and ensures it becomes reality. But look also at the few who rise. Their circumstances were no kinder. Many faced poverty, loss, or betrayal. Yet instead of blaming, they accepted. Instead of complaining, they acted. They declared that they, and only they, would determine their course. And life, as it always does, mirrored their belief. The law is unchanging. Your environment is a reflection of your attitude and your actions. If you do not like the reflection, change the source. To curse the mirror is madness. To adjust the self is wisdom. If you accept responsibility for your inner state, you gain mastery over your outer world. If you reject responsibility, you hand over the keys of your life to chance. But remember this, chance is a poor driver. It takes no one where they wish to go. Responsibility alone can carry you to the harbor of your choosing. Do not misunderstand. Responsibility does not mean self-condemnation. It does not mean dwelling on past mistakes or drowning in regret. Responsibility means ownership. It means saying, I may not have chosen what happened, but I will choose what happens next. It means refusing to let excuses rob you of your power. It means declaring that from this moment forward, you hold the pen and the story will be written according to your vision. This is not a burden, it is liberation. For once you realize that you are the cause, you also realize that you are the cure. Hear this law now and let it sink deeply. I am responsible for my life. Say it softly, whisper it as a vow, write it down and read it until it becomes carved into the walls of your subconscious. For with this belief you remove every obstacle. No longer will you blame others, for you know they cannot decide your fate. No longer will you resent the past, for you know it cannot dictate your future. No longer will you wait for rescue, for you know you are already free. Responsibility places the crown of mastery upon your head and the scepter of control into your hand. Consider the difference between the self-made and the self-defeated. Both face obstacles. Both encounter hardship. But the self-defeated say, it is because of them. It is because of this. It is not my fault. And so they surrender. The self-made say, though they opposed me, I overcame. Though this hindered me, I adapted. Though it was not my fault, it is my responsibility. And so they rise. The difference is not chance, not favor, not fate. It is responsibility. Those who accept it ascend. Those who reject it remain bound. Now, let this affirmation be planted as you drift into deeper rest. I accept complete responsibility for my destiny. Say it with quiet strength. Whisper it until it becomes law within you. Repeat it until it is no longer a phrase but an identity. For the man or woman who truly accepts responsibility becomes untouchable. Circumstances may shift, but they adapt. Obstacles may rise, but they overcome. Challenges may appear, but they persist. Responsibility is the key that unlocks resilience, freedom, and power. So tonight, release all blame, release all excuses. Release the illusion that others control you. Rest in the knowledge that you are the author. You are the captain. You are the master. Say once more as you fade, I accept complete responsibility for my destiny, and let the law take root, shaping tomorrow into a reflection of your decision tonight. Identity is destiny. Every thought you accept, every belief you hold, every affirmation you repeat is shaping the person you believe yourself to be. And the world unfailingly treats you according to that identity. A man who believes he is weak is treated as weak. A woman who believes she is powerless is treated as powerless. But the one who knows himself as strong, as capable, as destined for greatness, commands a different response from life. For reality bends itself to the image held most persistently within the mind. Tonight, as you rest, I urge you to take hold of the greatest secret of all. Become now in thought and identity the person you wish to be in the world, and the world will conspire to make it so. The error most make is to wait. They say, when I am successful, then I will think like the successful. They say, when I have wealth, then I will feel wealthy. They say, when I am free, then I will believe I am free. And so they wait endlessly, never realizing that the order is reversed. Thought precedes reality. Identity shapes circumstance. You must act as the person you want to become long before the world reflects it back to you. Think like the wealthy now. Walk like the free now. Believe like the successful now. For the subconscious cannot distinguish between present reality and imagined identity. It only accepts what it is fed. And once fed, it begins to arrange the world accordingly. This is why vision is so critical. Vision is not daydreaming. Vision is seeing with the eyes of the mind the life you have chosen and stepping into it as if it already exists. The great men and women of history were visionaries. They saw what others could not. They walked as kings while they still wore rags. They spoke as leaders while no one yet followed. They carried within themselves the conviction of identity, and the world in time had no choice but to acknowledge it. The visionary lives in tomorrow while others remain trapped in today, and tomorrow always belongs to the visionary. Let me give you this truth in the clearest words. Act now as the person you wish to become. Do not wait for permission. Do not wait for proof. Do not wait for applause. Begin tonight. Think as they would think. Speak as they would speak. Carry yourself as they would carry themselves. For by doing so, you instruct your subconscious, this is who I am. And your subconscious, faithful and tireless, begins to align your habits, your actions, your opportunities with that identity. This is the law of identity, and it is as unbreakable as gravity. Hear this law now and repeat it with conviction. I act now as the person I wish to become. Say it softly, write it down, whisper it until it becomes your very breath. For once the subconscious accepts it, transformation begins. No longer do you wait. No longer do you hope. You embody. And embodiment is the secret of creation. For when you embody a truth within, the world must reflect it without. Identity is cause, reality is effect. And once you hold the cause, the effect must follow. Consider the seed again. When you plant it, you do not see the harvest immediately. But you water it, you nourish it, you trust the process, you live as though the harvest is certain, for you know it will come in its season. So too with identity. You may not see the full reflection at once, but if you persist in the belief, in the embodiment, in the vision, it must come. The law cannot fail. The harvest is certain. The only question is whether you will persist long enough for it to appear. So I urge you tonight, as you drift into the deepest rest, to hold within your mind the picture of your highest self. See yourself already living in the home you desire. See yourself already commanding the respect you seek. See yourself already free, already strong, already at peace. And whisper this affirmation as you fall into sleep. I am already the person I desire to become. Say it again. I am already the person I desire to become. Let it sink beyond thought, beyond doubt, beyond resistance, until it becomes the very core of your identity. And when you rise tomorrow, carry yourself as that person. Walk with their stride, speak with their tone, think with their clarity, act with their confidence. For you are no longer waiting, you are no longer hoping, you are no longer wishing. You are becoming, and as you become, the world will bend. The world will rearrange itself, the world will yield. For identity is destiny, and your destiny begins tonight. There is a truth I have come to see more clearly with each passing year. A truth that explains why some men and women rise above the limitations of their environment, while others remain forever shackled by them. The truth is this: the way you walk through life, the way you carry yourself in your daily affairs, the way you approach your challenges and opportunities, determines more than all the books you have read or the advice you have been given. Walk as though it is already yours, even if you are terrified inside. Because the world does not bend to those who hesitate, it bends to those who move with certainty, those who act as though the ground beneath their feet belongs to them, and the future has already been signed in their favor. If you will study the lives of the successful, you will see that before they held the evidence in their hands, they held the evidence in their bearing. They lived in advance of the reality they sought. They walked with possession long before the prize was theirs. And in that act of walking, they attracted the conditions, the people, and the resources necessary to bring it into being. What keeps most men from realizing this is fear. Fear of failure, fear of ridicule, fear of not being ready, fear of not deserving. But fear is nothing more than a shadow that takes the form you give it. And the tragedy is that people believe they must first eliminate fear before they can walk boldly. The opposite is true. You walk boldly while the fear is present. You step forward while your heart trembles. You speak while your voice shakes. The act itself is the cure. The courage is born in the walking, not in the waiting. Fear does not vanish in the silence of inaction. It dissipates in the rhythm of decisive motion. When a man carries himself as though the outcome is assured, his very posture begins to rewrite the story of his destiny. The shoulders come back, the eyes lift, the pace steadies, and strangely enough, the world responds as though it believes him. People are drawn to certainty like moths to light, and they cannot help but align with the one who walks as though he knows. Now pause for a moment and reflect on this. Think of a time in your life when you were unsure, yet you carried yourself with a kind of quiet authority, and the situation shifted in your favor. Perhaps it was an interview where you decided to act like the job was already yours. Perhaps it was a competition where you stood on the starting line as though you had already crossed the finish. Or perhaps it was in a relationship where your calm assurance won respect that pleading never could. In each case, the outcome tilted toward your bearing. This is not magic, it is law. The law is this: what you embody internally, you will magnetize externally. When you walk as though it is already yours, even in the grip of terror, the world adjusts to the conviction you radiate. And the astonishing thing is that your own subconscious mind begins to take the posture as fact. It says, this must be who I am because this is how I act. In time, the terror shrinks and the assurance expands until you can scarcely remember a time you were doubtful. I am not saying you must pretend in the sense of lying or self-deceit. I am saying you must assume the state you desire and let your actions confirm it. There is a difference between faking and assuming. Faking is shallow, it collapses at the first test. Assuming is rooted in faith. It carries you through trial after trial because it is anchored in a higher conviction. When a king walks into a room, he does not ask permission to be king, he simply is. He does not need to raise his voice to display his crown or to boast of his victories. His presence communicates authority because he has assumed it in his very bones. You too must assume the identity of the person you wish to become. Walk into the day as though you already are the successful, capable, confident individual you have long dreamed of being. Even if your knees knock beneath your trousers, walk. Even if your palms sweat, speak. Even if your heart pounds, act. For the assumption precedes the evidence, and the evidence will come. Fear will whisper that you are not ready. But here is another law to engrave in your mind. Readiness is not a requirement, it is a result. We grow ready in the doing, not in the waiting. Every master was once a trembling beginner. Every leader once questioned whether he had what it took. But they began while they were terrified, and in beginning they discovered what no amount of sitting on the sidelines could ever teach them, that fear is a mirage, that doubt is a chain we can break simply by moving forward one step at a time. If you wait until you no longer feel fear, you will wait for the rest of your life. So decide instead that you will walk with the fear, speak with the fear, act with the fear. And soon you will find that the fear has been left far behind you, unable to keep pace with the steady march of your progress. Consider also the invisible communication you are broadcasting to those around you. People are constantly measuring one another, not in words but in posture, tone, and presence. They can sense whether you believe in yourself or not. They can feel whether you have already accepted ownership of your future or whether you are still negotiating with it. And here lies the great opportunity. When you walk like it is already yours, even if terror shakes you inside, you transmit a signal of inevitability. Employers sense it, clients sense it, friends and strangers sense it, and opportunities gather around you as though drawn by gravity. This is not chance. It is the way human beings are wired. We are attracted to conviction. We trust those who trust themselves. And when you step forward as if your victory is certain, others begin to conspire with you to bring it about. Let me ask you, what would change in your life if you lived this way for just 30 days? If every morning you rose and carried yourself as though your dreams were already signed and delivered, how would you dress? How would you speak? How would you work? What conversations would you no longer avoid? What risks would you finally take? And what doors would you knock on with a steady hand rather than a hesitant one? Write it down. Sketch the image of yourself walking with that kind of certainty. Let it imprint itself upon your mind until it becomes second nature. For 30 days, commit to walking as though it is already yours. You will discover that the world itself begins to bend, opportunities come into view, and even your inner voice begins to say, yes, this is who I am. And now I want you to affirm it with me. Speak it out loud if you can. Write it down if you must. Inscribe it upon your heart. Say it with me. I am one with courage and conviction. Even in fear, I walk as though it is already mine. Let that be the law you carry today. Say it again tomorrow. Say it until the words no longer feel like a stretch, but a reflection of the truth you live. For the man who walks with ownership in his step and faith in his voice is already halfway to the summit. The world does not wait for him to be ready. It bows to the one who dares to act ready now. Walk as though it is already yours, even if you are terrified, and in time it will be. There is another dimension to this truth, and it may strike you with even greater force than the first. Walking as though it is already yours is not merely a performance for the outside world. It is a reprogramming of your inner world. Your subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between an action born of certainty and one born of doubt. It simply records what you repeatedly do and builds its picture of who you are from there. When you carry yourself as though you already possess the victory, your subconscious accepts that image as fact and begins aligning your emotions, your energy, and even your physiology toward that identity. This is why athletes visualize before they perform. This is why leaders often adopt rituals of presence before they enter a negotiation. They are not tricking others, they are reconditioning themselves. And so when you walk with conviction, even while terrified, you are planting seeds in your subconscious soil that will grow into unshakable belief. The subconscious says, if I am acting like this, then I must be this, and soon the fear fades, not because you conquered it once, but because you starved it of oxygen day by day. Think about the opposite for a moment. Think of the countless times men and women have walked as though they were defeated before the contest even began. Shoulders slumped, voice faltering, eyes lowered. They rehearsed failure before anyone else declared it. They told their subconscious, this is who I am, and it complied. And so the tragedy multiplied. Their posture created their performance. Their performance reinforced their posture. And soon the defeat was not only an event, it was an identity. This is why so many people live out lives of quiet desperation, never knowing that they rehearsed the wrong script, never realizing they broadcast their own downfall with every hesitant step. You must see this clearly. Every act is a signal, every step is a rehearsal, every posture is a command to your own mind, and the only way to escape the loop of fear is to consciously choose a different rehearsal, a different walk, a different command. The law here is simple, and I encourage you to say it, to write it, to engrave it on the page before you. I am the author of my inner script. I choose the walk of certainty. I refuse to rehearse defeat. Now imagine if you lived by that line. Imagine if every encounter in your day, from the smallest meeting to the greatest opportunity, was framed by that conviction. People would feel something shift in you. They may not know what has changed, but they will sense it. Your words would carry more weight, your silence would command more respect, and your own body would align with that chosen script. The nervous flutter in your chest would begin to calm, the hesitation in your tone would begin to firm, and the scattered energy of doubt would consolidate into a single steady beam of direction. All of it from a decision you made to walk a different way. This is why confidence is often misunderstood. People believe confidence is the absence of fear. In reality, confidence is the result of living in alignment with the inner script you have chosen. A man who tells himself daily, "I am capable, I am worthy, I am prepared," and then acts in agreement with those words cannot help but radiate confidence. It is not arrogance because it is not born of comparison. It is certainty born of consistent rehearsal, and the world rewards such certainty. The employer feels it in the interview. The customer feels it in the sale. The stranger feels it in your handshake, and you feel it in your own spine when you rise each morning. Confidence is not given. It is not inherited. It is rehearsed into being. And the rehearsal begins the moment you decide to walk as though it is already yours. But there is more. You cannot simply walk this way for a single day and expect permanent transformation. Just as no farmer plants seed once and expects harvest for a lifetime, you must cultivate this posture daily. This means repetition. This means discipline. This means walking as though it is already yours on the good days and on the dark days when fear is loud and doubt is heavy. It means showing up with the same stride in uncertainty as in certainty until the uncertainty has no choice but to dissolve. Success, after all, is nothing more than a progressive realization of a worthy goal. And progressive realization means daily practice. Walk with possession until possession feels natural. Walk with conviction until conviction feels inevitable. And walk with faith until fear forgets your name. You may wonder, is this truly necessary? Can one not simply work hard and let the results speak for themselves? But hard work without inner conviction is like a ship without a rudder. It may move, but it will drift. It may travel, but it will wander. And in the end, it may expend great energy without ever arriving. Work fueled by conviction is different. It is directional. It is precise. It is steady. It does not waste energy in hesitation or in second guessing. It cuts through doubt like a blade. And this is why two men of equal skill, equal education, and equal opportunity can live lives of vastly different outcomes. One walks with possession, the other with hesitation. One assumes ownership, the other waits for permission. And the difference multiplies until one man lives as a leader and the other as a follower. Decide which one you will be. Now let us bring this closer to home. Tomorrow morning when you rise, before you speak to another soul, stand before the mirror and look at yourself. Do not ask, "Who am I today?" Declare, "This is who I am." Speak your law aloud, and then step into your day with the gait of a man or woman who knows. It may feel strange at first, it may feel like theater, but remember this, it only feels like theater because you have rehearsed the wrong play for too long. Soon this new play will feel natural, soon the audience of your life will believe it because you believe it, and soon the curtain will rise on a destiny you once thought unreachable, made reachable by nothing more than the decision to walk a different way. So once more, let us write it, let us speak it, let us inscribe it upon the mind until it cannot be forgotten. I am the author of my inner script. I choose the walk of certainty. I refuse to rehearse defeat. Carry this with you, not as a phrase you heard today, but as a law you live tomorrow. Say it again tonight. Say it until your subconscious accepts it without question. Say it until your walk changes. Say it until your future changes, and it will change. There is a principle at work beneath all of this that we must understand if we are to make lasting use of it. Human beings do not act in accordance with the truth of their potential. They act in accordance with the image they hold of themselves. That image, sometimes clear, sometimes clouded, acts like a thermostat. No matter how high you rise, you will eventually return to the level your inner picture dictates. And no matter how low you fall, if your inner picture is set higher, you will rise again to meet it. This is why the walk of certainty is so powerful. It is not only a performance to the world, it is the act of resetting your inner image. When you walk as though it is already yours, you are raising the thermostat of your self-concept. You are saying to your subconscious, I belong here. This is my level. This is my place. And as the days pass, your subconscious begins to conform to that new image, pulling your actions, your choices, and even your circumstances upward to meet it. That is not fantasy. That is law. Your life always expands or contracts to fit the image you hold inside. So many people fail to realize this and spend their lives sabotaging themselves, not because they lack ability, but because they lack permission from their own inner image. They may work hard, but their subconscious whispers, this is not for you. They may try, but their inner voice says, you don't deserve it. And so they trip at the finish line. They give up before the breakthrough. They reject the very opportunities that could set them free. This is why the world is full of talented, hard-working men and women who never rise above mediocrity. They never learn to change their self-image. They never learn to walk as though it was already theirs. They never raise the thermostat. And because of that, their lives remained locked in a smaller room than their potential would allow. But you are not bound to that fate. You can raise the thermostat, you can step into a higher picture of yourself, and it begins with the decision to act as though you are already the person you desire to become. The law here is unmistakable, and I encourage you to pause and declare it with me. I am worthy of greatness. My inner image rises to meet my dreams. I walk in alignment with who I am becoming. Write it down, speak it aloud. Let it imprint itself on the very fabric of your thinking, because once your inner image shifts, the outer world must follow. Opportunities that once seemed unreachable will now feel natural. Relationships that once intimidated you will now feel equal. Challenges that once seemed overwhelming will now feel proportionate to your strength. And all of this not because the world changed overnight, but because your self-image demanded that it rise to match your new walk. Now consider this. Every act of walking as though it is already yours is not a single step forward. It is also a chisel stroke on the statue of your identity. Each day you carry yourself differently. You chip away at the old image of doubt and fear. Each word you speak with conviction reshapes the contours of who you believe yourself to be. Each risk you take while trembling builds a monument to courage in your subconscious. And just as a sculptor chips away at stone to reveal the figure hidden within, so you chip away at the lies and limitations until the true image of your potential emerges. The masterpiece was always there. It only needed the discipline of consistent action to set it free. This is why it is not enough to think positively for a moment and then return to old habits. Your subconscious is not swayed by a single flash of inspiration. It is reprogrammed through repetition, through daily proof, through steady rehearsal. Walk with ownership in small things, and you will find it easier to walk with ownership in great things. Carry yourself with conviction in your daily tasks, and you will carry it naturally into the larger battles of your life. The rehearsal never ends, but neither does the reward. For each day you live in this way, you are building a self-image strong enough to withstand storms, resilient enough to recover from defeat, and courageous enough to pursue visions that once seemed beyond imagination. Many men and women hope their self-image will improve once they succeed, but they have the order reversed. Success follows self-image, not the other way around. A man must see himself as worthy before the world sees him as worthy. A woman must carry herself as capable before the world entrusts her with responsibility. This is the great paradox. By acting as though it is already yours, you become the kind of person for whom it truly is. That is why the timid remain on the sidelines and the bold take the field. The timid wait for evidence before believing. The bold believe, and in believing they create the evidence. And the evidence, once created, confirms the image further, creating a cycle of growth, of faith, of expansion. The timid shrink because they rehearse defeat. The bold expand because they rehearse victory. Which will you choose? I want you to imagine for a moment a higher version of yourself. Confident, disciplined, successful, unshaken by fear. Picture how this self would walk into the world. Picture how they would speak, how they would work, how they would rest at night with assurance. Now ask yourself this simple question. What would stop me from living like that today? The answer is nothing but the image you carry. The resources are not absent. The opportunities are not absent. The ability is not absent. What is absent is permission, and permission can only be granted by you. Decide now to grant it. Decide now to step into that higher image, not tomorrow, not after the evidence appears, but now. For every day you delay, the old image tightens its grip, and every day you choose to walk as though it is already yours, the new image strengthens. So take this with you as a law, a living principle. I am worthy of greatness. My inner image rises to meet my dreams. I walk in alignment with who I am becoming. Say it again tonight. Say it in the morning. Write it until your hand remembers. Speak it until your voice believes. And most of all, walk it until the world confirms it, because in time, it will. There is a further truth that must be faced if you are to master this law. Walking as though it is already yours does not mean arrogance. It does not mean boasting, nor does it mean pretending you are above others. It means you assume the quiet dignity of ownership, the calm bearing of someone who knows where he is going and what he is about. True ownership is never loud. It does not need to announce itself because it is evident in every gesture, every tone, every decision. A man or woman who must constantly declare their worth has not yet believed it themselves. But the one who has assumed it within has no need to prove it without. The world will see it. The world will feel it. The world will know it. So remember this. Walk with assurance, not arrogance, with confidence, not conceit, with calmness, not swagger. For it is not the loud step that wins respect. It is the steady one. The subtlety here is that walking as though it is already yours is more about service than possession. When you walk with certainty, you make others feel safe to follow. When you speak with conviction, you give others permission to believe, and when you live as though your victory is assured, you become a lighthouse to those still tossed about by fear. This is why true leaders are not those who shout the loudest, but those who radiate certainty even when storms rage. People gather around them not because of their titles, but because of their presence. And so when you practice this law, do not think only of what it gains you, think also of what it gives to those around you. Your certainty becomes their certainty. Your calm becomes their calm. Your faith becomes their faith. This is why the man who walks as though it is already his uplifts, not only himself, but everyone in his orbit. Now we must acknowledge that the world will test you. When you begin to walk with certainty, you will be confronted by doubt. Not only your own, but the doubt of others. People may scoff, they may question, they may even ridicule, and yet this is the very test that proves the authenticity of your walk. For if you only walk with ownership when everyone else agrees, you are not walking with ownership at all. You are merely borrowing the approval of the crowd. But when you walk with certainty in the face of criticism, in the presence of resistance, in the absence of applause, then you are truly living the law. It is in those moments of solitude, when you have only your conviction to guide you, that the seeds of greatness are most deeply planted. And when the harvest comes, the same people who doubted will marvel at the fruit. Here lies another law you must engrave upon your paper, your heart, and your mind. I am unshaken by doubt. I walk steady in the face of resistance. My certainty is my compass. Say it with me. Write it now, for you will need it. In the days ahead, there will be tests. There will be moments when your old image calls you back, when fear whispers again, when others do not see what you see. And in those moments, you must remember this law. Repeat it. Stand on it. Let it guide your stride when nothing else will. For the man who can walk with certainty without external validation is the man who has already won. Consider how many people falter simply because they cannot withstand the doubt of others. They may begin well, but a single comment, a single raised eyebrow, a single word of criticism, and their stride collapses. They give their compass to the crowd and wonder why they drift. Do not be one of them. Expect doubt. Welcome it. Let it be the backdrop against which your certainty shines brighter. For the one who perseveres through doubt will soon be the one others point to and say, "He knew all along, she believed before the rest of us did." And that is the mark of true leadership, the kind the world never forgets. There is also a paradox to recognize. When you walk with quiet assurance, not demanding recognition, you often attract more respect than the one who clamors for attention. People can sense authenticity. They know the difference between confidence and pretense. They are drawn to the man who does not need to explain himself because his life explains him. They are drawn to the woman who does not need to defend her worth because her bearing confirms it. And so the great irony is that by refusing to beg for approval, you often win it. By walking as though it is already yours, you create the very reality you seek without ever having to grasp for it. Think also of the legacy you are creating. Every day you walk with conviction, even in fear. You are writing a story your children may read in your example, a story your colleagues may follow in your footsteps, a story your friends may repeat when they speak of you. Do not underestimate the ripple effect of your bearing. A steady walk today may inspire courage in someone you have never met tomorrow. And though you may never know the full extent of your influence, the world will be better for it. This is the hidden reward of walking as though it is already yours. It multiplies beyond you. It creates courage in others. And that, my friend, is the mark of a life well lived. So let us anchor ourselves again with the law. I am unshaken by doubt. I walk steady in the face of resistance. My certainty is my compass. Say it in the morning when you rise. Say it in the evening when you rest. Say it when the critics speak. Say it when fear stirs again. And walk with it until it is no longer a phrase on your lips but a truth in your bones. For the day will come when the world bows to the one who never bowed to doubt. And when that day comes, you will know that it was your stride, steady and sure, that carried you there. There is a further dimension to this practice that we must not overlook, for it is the thread that ties all progress together, discipline. Walking as though it is already yours is not a matter of mood, nor is it something to practice only when you feel strong. It is a discipline, a choice made day after day, regardless of whether the sun is shining or the clouds are heavy. Discipline is the bridge between the image you hold and the life you live. Without it, the vision remains a dream. With it, the dream becomes a destiny. Every morning you rise, you must recommit to the stride, to the voice, to the bearing of the person you intend to be. The undisciplined man waits for inspiration. The disciplined man creates it by his walk, and the world, observing this steady consistency, begins to treat him as the owner, long before the deed is in his hand. Discipline also separates the short burst of enthusiasm from the steady fire of transformation. Anyone can walk with certainty for a day, perhaps even a week, while the thrill of new ideas fills their mind. But the disciplined carry themselves this way for years, until the posture has become their second nature, until fear has long since starved from neglect, until doubt no longer finds a place to sit in their house. That is why discipline must be embraced not as a punishment, but as a privilege. It is the daily act of aligning your walk with your vision, regardless of circumstance. Discipline says, I choose to act like the person I desire to be, even when no one is watching, even when no reward is visible. And in that choice, day after day, a man becomes unstoppable. Now, let us speak clearly. Discipline is often uncomfortable. It means rising when the body begs for more rest. It means speaking with conviction when silence would be easier. It means taking the harder path when the easier one tempts. But consider this truth. The pain of discipline is measured in ounces, while the weight of regret is measured in tons. The man who chooses discipline bears a temporary strain, but the man who chooses comfort bears a lifelong chain. Walking as though it is already yours will demand discipline in moments when fear urges retreat. But each time you choose discipline, the chain of fear weakens and the muscle of certainty strengthens. Soon the very act that once terrified you becomes the act that defines you. The law here must be written and repeated until it is carved into your will. I embrace discipline as my freedom. My daily walk forges my destiny. I refuse the chains of comfort. Write it down now, say it aloud. Let it guide you tomorrow morning when the alarm rings, when the decision between comfort and growth confronts you. For this is the choice that defines the great from the mediocre, the fulfilled from the regretful, the leaders from the followers. Discipline is the invisible crown upon the head of every man or woman who commands respect without demanding it. Discipline also multiplies through habit. At first it feels forced, deliberate, unnatural. But repetition transforms effort into ease. The stride that once felt like theater becomes second nature. The voice that once trembled becomes steady. The posture that once required attention becomes automatic. This is the beauty of discipline. It turns chosen actions into effortless identity. What once required effort now requires no thought at all. And in this way, discipline frees you, because it ingrains certainty so deeply into your being that it becomes who you are rather than what you do. You will notice also that discipline attracts respect in ways nothing else can. People may admire talent, they may envy luck, but they trust discipline. They know that the disciplined man will show up, rain or shine. They know that his words are not the whim of a moment, but the reflection of steady character. And so doors open for him that remain closed to others. Opportunities align with him because he is reliable. And wealth in all its forms gravitates toward him because he has proven he can sustain it. This is why I say discipline is not merely a tool, it is the very currency of success. Think for a moment of those who failed, not because they lacked ability, but because they lacked discipline. They began strong but faded quickly. They had vision but no consistency, and so their walk crumbled. Their certainty dissolved, their dreams withered. Now compare them to the ones who endured, who carried themselves with ownership not for days but for decades. Their lives bear fruit others marvel at, and yet their secret is no mystery. It was discipline. They chose, daily, to walk as though it was already theirs. And in time it was. The equation is simple, the cost is clear, the reward is beyond measure. So let me urge you, do not despise the small daily acts of discipline, for they are the bricks of the palace you are building. Each morning you rise and walk with ownership. you lay another stone. Each decision to act in alignment with your vision, you strengthen the foundation. And though the palace may not appear overnight, one day you will look around and realize you are standing in the very halls you once imagined. And it will not surprise you, for you walked as though it was already yours all along. So let us anchor ourselves again with the law. I embrace discipline as my freedom. My daily walk forges my destiny. I refuse the chains of comfort. Say it in the morning. Say it in the evening. Say it when you are tempted to give up. And most of all, live it in your stride, your choices, your habits. For discipline is not the enemy. It is the architect of your freedom. There is another law woven deeply into this principle, and it is one that many overlook until it is too late, the law of sacrifice. To walk as though it is already yours means you will, by necessity, release certain things along the way. You cannot carry the posture of ownership while dragging the chains of your old life. You cannot rise to a higher level while clinging to every comfort of the lower one. Sacrifice is not punishment. It is the natural exchange of one state for another. The farmer who plants his seed sacrifices it to the soil, but in that sacrifice he gains the harvest. The student who gives up idle hours for study sacrifices comfort, but in that sacrifice he gains knowledge and opportunity. And the man or woman who walks with certainty, even in fear, sacrifices hesitation, excuses, and smallness, and gains in return a life of authority, fulfillment, and freedom. Every great stride forward demands a price. The question is not whether you will sacrifice, but whether you will sacrifice wisely. Too often people imagine they can walk with conviction and yet hold tightly to their old habits, their old excuses, their old distractions. But certainty does not flourish in divided soil. You cannot plant the seeds of greatness in ground already choked with weeds. You must clear the field. You must decide what you will leave behind so that your new stride can take root. This is why sacrifice is not optional, it is essential. And here is the paradox. Once embraced, sacrifice is not loss at all, but investment. Every comfort you set aside, every indulgence you deny, every fear you confront becomes the down payment on the future you desire. And when the harvest comes, you will look back and see that the price you paid was small compared to the reward you received. So let us write the law now and speak it aloud until it is etched into your being. I sacrifice what is small to gain what is great. I release the chains of comfort to walk into my future. I invest today for tomorrow's freedom. Say it again, write it on your page. For you will be tempted daily to believe that sacrifice is too costly, but remind yourself that the true cost lies in refusing to sacrifice, the cost of wasted years, the cost of unfulfilled potential, the cost of living in fear while opportunity passes you by. Those are the heaviest losses a human being can bear, and they are borne not by those who sacrifice, but by those who refuse. Consider the lives of those who achieved greatness in any field, business, art, science, leadership. Without exception, they walked away from something in order to walk towards something greater. They gave up comfort to gain character. They gave up distractions to gain focus. They gave up the approval of the crowd to gain the satisfaction of their vision. And though the world sometimes called them foolish in the moment, history has called them wise. Because when you know where you are going, sacrifice ceases to feel like loss. It feels like clarity. It feels like freedom, it feels like purpose, and purpose always outweighs comfort. There is also a hidden power in sacrifice that few recognize. It purifies your stride. When you let go of lesser things, you begin to walk lighter, freer, faster. Fear loses its grip, not because it has vanished, but because you no longer carry the baggage it feeds upon. Doubt loses its echo, because you have silenced the voices of distraction, and certainty grows louder because there is space for it to be heard. In this way, sacrifice is not merely subtraction, it is multiplication. It multiplies your strength by removing what weakens you. It multiplies your vision by removing what clouds you. It multiplies your stride by removing what slows you. And so what once felt like a painful choice soon reveals itself as the very act that unlocked your power. Think also of the message your sacrifices send to your subconscious. Each time you give up a comfort for the sake of your vision, your subconscious receives the command, this must be important, this must be who I am, and with each command, your inner image shifts further into alignment with your higher self. Sacrifice, then, is not only about what you give up, it is about what you declare to yourself. It is the steady drumbeat that says, I will not live small, I will not settle, I am moving forward, no matter the cost. And soon the cost feels less like a burden and more like a badge of honor. You begin to wear it proudly, knowing that every sacrifice has carved a path for your future self to walk with freedom and dignity. Now reflect for a moment. What must you sacrifice to walk as though it is already yours? What habits must you release? What distractions must you silence? What fears must you confront? Write them down. Look them in the eye. Do not flinch, for it is better to sacrifice them willingly now than to have them rob you slowly for years to come. Each day you delay, they steal a little more of your strength, a little more of your vision, a little more of your destiny. But each day you sacrifice, you reclaim ground, you grow stronger, you walk freer, and in time you look back and realize that nothing you released was ever truly worth keeping. So let us fix this truth firmly in mind. I sacrifice what is small to gain what is great. I release the chains of comfort to walk into my future. I invest today for tomorrow's freedom. Carry it with you into every decision. Speak it when the temptation comes to choose ease over growth. Write it again when doubt whispers that the price is too high. And most of all, live it with your stride. For the man or woman who embraces sacrifice walks with a freedom that no one can take away. And in that freedom lies the power to create a life that is truly their own. There is a higher layer to this truth, one that reaches beyond discipline and sacrifice, and that is vision. Walking as though it is already yours requires that you know what it is. Too many people drift through life without a clear destination, and so their walk lacks power, their stride lacks direction. A ship with no chart may move, but it will never arrive. A man with no vision may act, but his actions will scatter like leaves in the wind. Vision is the map that gives your stride meaning. It is the picture that allows your certainty to have form. Without vision, walking as though it is already yours becomes vague, hollow, unfocused. But with vision, every step becomes precise, every sacrifice purposeful, every discipline worthwhile. And so you must define it. What is it you are walking toward? What is the worthy goal that gives your life direction? Do not be afraid to dream boldly here, for the law of life is that we become what we think about most of the time. If your thoughts are small, your life will be small. If your thoughts are scattered, your life will be scattered. But if your thoughts are bold, consistent, and aligned with a vision worthy of your best, your life will begin to expand toward that vision. The man who sees himself as a leader and walks with the bearing of one will in time become one. The woman who envisions herself free, independent, successful, and walks daily as though that freedom is hers will in time live it. The vision precedes the reality, just as the blueprint precedes the building. No builder begins without a plan, no sculptor begins without a design, and no man should walk as though it is already his without first knowing what it is. Now let us anchor this into practice. Take out your paper, write down the vision you hold for yourself, clear, specific, worthy of your best effort. Do not settle for vague hopes. Do not settle for what others expect. Write down the true vision that burns within you, even if it terrifies you, especially if it terrifies you. For the vision that frightens you is often the one most aligned with your destiny, and once you have written it, speak this law with me. I walk with vision clear before me. My stride is directed by purpose. I become what I think about most. Speak it until it feels natural, until your very walk seems to move in rhythm with those words. Think for a moment about the countless people who wander through life without vision. They wake, they work, they sleep, but they never rise. They live as though life is happening to them rather than through them. And so they accept whatever comes, never realizing that vision could have turned the tide. They do not walk with certainty because there is nothing certain to walk toward. They do not carry themselves with ownership because they have never claimed ownership of a dream. And the tragedy is that they mistake motion for progress. They confuse activity with direction. But direction is everything. 10 steps in the right direction are worth more than 1,000 steps in circles. And vision is what sets the direction. Once you hold a clear vision, fear begins to lose its strength. Doubt begins to fade. Sacrifice becomes easier because you know what you are trading for. Discipline becomes lighter because you see the destination ahead. Vision is the great clarifier. It simplifies choices, it answers questions, it silences confusion. You no longer wonder whether to say yes or no because the vision answers for you. You no longer wonder whether to keep going because the vision pulls you forward. And when others question you, as they inevitably will, you smile quietly because you know what they do not, that the vision is already yours in seed form and you are simply walking it into reality. Vision also inspires those around you. When you carry yourself with clarity, others are drawn to you. They sense the certainty of your direction. They feel the weight of your purpose. And though they may not share your vision, they will often lend their strength to help you fulfill it because people long to be part of something greater than themselves. In this way, your vision not only guides you but gathers others. And soon you find that you are no longer walking alone. You are leading. You are creating momentum not only for yourself but for all who believe in the clarity you embody. But vision must be nurtured. It is not enough to write it once and forget it. You must impress it upon your mind daily. Read it, visualize it, speak it. Let it become the backdrop of your thoughts, the undercurrent of your walk. For the law remains, we become what we think about. If you think daily on fear, you will live in fear. If you think daily on lack, you will live in lack. But if you think daily on vision, you will live in vision. And in time, the world will bend to reflect the picture you have held steadily in your mind. This is not superstition. This is cause and effect. This is the natural law of mind and life. So once again, let us speak the law. I walk with vision clear before me. My stride is directed by purpose. I become what I think about most. Carry it with you into your mornings. Whisper it in your evenings. Let it steady your step when fear rises, and let it sharpen your focus when distractions call. For vision is the compass, the map, the lighthouse, and when you walk with it before you, you are no longer wandering, you are arriving. There is one final truth to complete this journey, and it may be the most liberating of all, the law of identity. To walk as though it is already yours is not merely about discipline, sacrifice, or even vision. It is about identity. Because in the end, you will always live according to who you believe yourself to be. If you see yourself as unworthy, you will sabotage every opportunity that comes. If you see yourself as small, you will shrink back when greatness calls. If you see yourself as broken, you will stumble even when the path is clear. But if you see yourself as worthy, as powerful, as chosen, you will rise to every occasion. You will carry yourself with the quiet assurance of one who belongs. And the world, seeing that identity expressed in your walk, will confirm it again and again. Identity is destiny. Change your identity, and your life must follow. How then do we change identity? By assumption, by acting as though it is already yours until the image settles into your bones. Identity is not inherited, it is built. It is not given, it is claimed. Each day you walk with ownership. You reinforce the image of the person you are becoming. Each sacrifice you make confirms the identity of someone who values growth over comfort. Each discipline you practice confirms the identity of someone who chooses freedom over chains. And each vision you hold before your eyes confirms the identity of someone destined to live it. Slowly, steadily, the subconscious says, "This is who I am." And when that identity is fixed, the battle is already won. For you cannot consistently live in contradiction to the person you believe yourself to be. Let us write the law clearly now, and I urge you to say it with conviction, to write it with determination, to carry it until it becomes part of your very breath. I am already the person I seek to become. My walk reflects my true identity. My life bends to who I believe I am. Say it aloud. Feel the weight of it. For this is not wishful thinking, it is alignment. The world mirrors back the identity you carry inside, and once your identity rises, nothing external can pull you permanently down. Even in failure, you will rise again because your identity demands it. Even in setbacks, you will continue forward because your identity commands it. And soon the success you once feared would elude you will chase you because it recognizes you as its rightful owner. Think of the difference between a guest and a homeowner. A guest hesitates, asks permission, moves cautiously, afraid of breaking something. A homeowner moves freely, confidently, naturally, because he knows it is his. That is the difference identity makes. When you see yourself as the rightful owner of your vision, you no longer ask permission to live it. You no longer tiptoe through life as though you don't belong. You stride with the authority of a homeowner because you know this life is yours to build, yours to shape, yours to command. And just like that, doors open, opportunities align, people respond, because you are no longer carrying yourself like a visitor, but like an owner. This, my friend, is the essence of it all. Walk like it's already yours, even if you're terrified. Walk with discipline, because discipline is freedom. Walk with sacrifice, because sacrifice is investment. Walk with vision, because vision is direction. And above all, walk with identity, because identity is destiny. The fear will come, yes, but fear is not the enemy. Fear is the forge. It is the heat that tempers your steel. It is the backdrop against which your certainty shines. So do not wait for fear to vanish. Walk with it, carry it, outpace it, and in time you will look back and see that fear was never the master. It was merely the shadow, and shadows cannot survive in the light of conviction. And now I leave you with the final challenge. For 30 days, live this way. 30 days of walking as though it is already yours. 30 days of repeating the laws we have spoken. 30 days of acting in alignment with the identity you are becoming. Write them, speak them, Live them until they become inseparable from your stride. Do this, and you will see change, not in theory, but in reality. You will feel the ground shift beneath your feet. You will see opportunities you once overlooked. You will sense a power within you that was always there, waiting for your permission to rise. And you will know with a certainty that no one can take away, that your life bends to your identity. So once more, let us speak it together one last time. I am already the person I seek to become. My walk reflects my true identity. My life bends to who I believe I am. Say it in the morning when fear whispers. Say it at night when doubt stirs. Say it when you triumph, and say it when you stumble. And most of all, live it with every step you take. For the world does not wait for those who hesitate. It bows to those who walk as though it is already theirs. There is a curious truth about human progress and personal greatness that is echoed through every generation. The men and women who alter the course of their lives, and often the lives of countless others, are rarely welcomed with applause in the beginning. More often than not, they are ridiculed, doubted, and dismissed as dreamers detached from reality. Their families whisper, their friends shake their heads, and society brands them with one simple word: crazy. But if you look closely, history tells us that every breakthrough, every towering achievement, every triumph that reshaped the world first wore the disguise of madness. What is deemed impossible today becomes obvious tomorrow. What is ridiculed today becomes respected tomorrow. What is mocked today becomes the very standard of greatness. And the reason is simple: society measures everything against the limited scope of average. The extraordinary has always been misunderstood by the ordinary. Think about the Wright brothers, toiling away in a dusty workshop, building contraptions of wood and cloth that the world said would never fly. Learned men of their time insisted that flight was impossible, and to attempt it was the height of folly. They were called dreamers, eccentrics, fools. Yet, when they lifted off from the sands of Kitty Hawk, they rewrote the laws of possibility, and the world has never looked back. Consider Thomas Edison, whose thousands of failed experiments were not seen as persistence, but as proof that he had lost his reason. And yet, with each attempt, he inched closer to a discovery that would illuminate the world. Each of these men bore the same mark in their time. They were called crazy, and yet in the end they were celebrated as geniuses. That word crazy has always been the price tag society attaches to vision, discipline, and the audacity to believe. You see, the world is quick to ridicule what it cannot yet understand, and quicker still to applaud once the fruits of success become undeniable. The masses cannot see what you see when you hold a vision in your mind. They are bound by the chains of habit, of conformity, of fear. They believe only in what has already been proven, what has already been accepted. But the person who seeks to rise above mediocrity must learn to see beyond the visible. He must learn to hold in his mind a picture of the future so vivid, so alive, that it guides his actions in the present like a compass. This ability to see what is not yet real and to act upon it with faith and discipline is what separates the haves from the have-nots, the victors from the victims, the creators from the crowd. And because it is rare, it is misunderstood. The irony is that those who mock you for your vision are the very same people who years later will ask you how you did it. They will say, "I always believed in you," when in truth they doubted you at every step. This is the rhythm of human nature. People fear what they cannot measure, and so they attack it with laughter, with criticism, with dismissal, and yet you must not resent them for it. Understand that they are prisoners of their own limited thinking. They are doing what average minds have always done, resisting change. But if you are to win, if you are to build the life you desire, you must rise above their noise. You must learn to walk forward even when the world jeers. You must learn to carry within you a confidence so quiet, so steady, that no ridicule can pierce it. The great law of life is that we become what we think about. This is not a theory, it is not a suggestion, it is a law as certain as gravity. The mind, like fertile soil, cannot help but grow what is planted in it. Plant fear, doubt, and limitation, and your harvest will be small, bitter, and unsatisfying. Plant courage, vision, and determination, and your harvest will be abundant, rich, and lasting. This law is not reserved for the few, it applies equally to all. And it is here that most men and women falter. They allow the seeds of others' opinions to be sown in their minds. They permit ridicule to plant weeds of doubt, and those weeds choke out their vision. But the man who guards his mind, who deliberately plants only what he chooses and tends it daily with persistence, cannot help but reap success in due season. So the challenge, dear friend, is not to win the approval of the crowd, but to win the battle of your own thoughts. Your success does not hinge on what they call you, but on what you call yourself in the silence of your own mind. If you think like the masses, you will live like the masses. If you dare to think independently, courageously, and faithfully, you will live a life that looks nothing like theirs. But make no mistake, the moment you resolve to rise above average, you will be called names, you will be doubted, and yes, you will be called crazy. This is not a curse, it is confirmation that you are on the right path. Do not shrink from it. Do not apologize for it. Embrace it. Wear it as a badge of honor. The very resistance you face from others is the signal that you are moving in the direction of growth. If no one doubts you, it is because you are not stretching far enough. If no one calls you crazy, it is because your vision is too small. Understand that ridicule is not the end of the road, it is the beginning. The laughter of others is merely the sound of chains rattling as they try to hold you back. And yet, no chain can bind the man who has decided to be free in his own thinking. I want you to take a sheet of paper and write this down, for it will serve as a reminder when the voices of doubt grow loud. Write, I am one with vision and strength. I am free of doubt and limitation. Repeat it, not once, not twice, but until it begins to echo in the corridors of your mind. Say it in the morning when you rise, say it at night when you rest, and say it in the very moments when others laugh. Let it remind you that greatness begins in thought, and thought is yours alone to govern. So yes, they will call you crazy, they will whisper it behind your back, they will say it with mocking tones, they will dress it up as advice, they will mask it as concern, but you must know what it truly is. It is the world's admission that you are daring to live differently. It is their confession that you have chosen a road they were too fearful to walk. And in time, if you persist, if you hold fast to your vision, if you refuse to let their doubts poison your faith, the same voices that mocked you will one day fall silent, and their silence will be the sound of your victory. And as we continue, let us press deeper into the nature of this word, crazy, and why it so often becomes the cloak that visionaries must wear. You see, the world has built its patterns around predictability. Most men wake at the same time, travel the same routes, work at the same tasks, complain of the same burdens, and then rest in the same quiet despair. It is a cycle repeated endlessly without pause, without examination. The one who dares to break that cycle, to step off the treadmill of habit, instantly becomes suspect. He is no longer predictable. He is no longer bound by the invisible chains that hold the crowd. And the crowd cannot forgive this difference because it shines a light on their own resignation. To call you crazy is their way of covering their unease, their way of quieting the nagging suspicion that they too could have chosen more. Think of the young man who decides not to follow the expected path of working for wages alone, but instead invests in himself, his education, or a small business. His friends say, why take the risk? Why not stay safe? Why not play it the way everyone else does? They will call his risk-taking foolishness, when in truth it is courage. Or think of the woman who refuses to stay in an environment of mediocrity, who leaves behind comfort for the uncertainty of chasing her dream. People shake their heads, they whisper behind her back, they cannot understand why she would abandon the known for the unknown, yet it is precisely in the unknown that all growth and opportunity reside. What they call crazy is often nothing more than the willingness to bet on oneself, and that is something the average man has never done. It is important to understand, however, that to be called crazy is not itself a guarantee of greatness. Some men are called crazy because they are reckless, irresponsible, or delusional, but the distinction lies here. The visionary has reason, discipline, and purpose guiding his so-called madness. He is not running blindly into chaos, he is walking deliberately toward a future that only he can see. This is why he endures, while the pretender fades. The true visionary harnesses the law of cause and effect. He understands that his thoughts, planted daily with care and consistency, will inevitably bear fruit. The world may not see the harvest yet, but he already sees the seed in the ground, and he knows the law. As you sow, so shall you reap. Now let me ask you a question. Do you have the courage to be misunderstood? Can you endure the laughter, the whispers, the doubts? Because that is the price of entry into the realm of the extraordinary. If you cannot bear to stand alone, you will never stand at all. If you must have the applause of others before you act, you will remain forever chained to their approval. And that approval is fickle. It shifts with the winds. It disappears at the first sign of challenge. The man or woman who wins in life does not live by applause. They live by principle. They live by laws that are unchanging. And one such law is this: we become what we think about. You may dismiss it, you may ignore it, but if you test it, if you write it down and repeat it daily, you will see its power unfold before your very eyes. Write it down now. If you have a piece of paper before you, we become what we think about. Say it out loud. Whisper it if you must, but let the words pass your lips so they sink deeper into your consciousness. This law is the foundation upon which every victory is built. It is why the dreamer becomes the doer, why the so-called crazy man becomes the creator, why the misunderstood becomes the admired. Because while the world is busy recycling its doubts, he is busy planting his vision. While the world rehearses fear, he rehearses faith. While the world conforms, he creates. You may wonder, but what about failure? What about the ridicule I cannot escape? Let me answer you clearly. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of the process of success. Those who call you crazy when you stumble will say, "I told you so," but you must hear their words for what they are, an echo of their own limitations. Do not allow their voices to become your inner voice. Failure is fertilizer. It enriches the soil of your mind. It teaches you lessons that success never could. Edison's thousands of attempts were failures, yes, but only to the shallow eye. To the wise they were steps, necessary steps toward light. Each so-called failure carried within it the seed of progress, and the ridicule of others could not drown out his persistence. So here is the law for this moment, and I want you to take it, write it, and repeat it. I will think only of the results I desire, never of the fears that try to hold me back. Say it slowly. Let it carve itself into your mind. Say it when the world doubts you. Say it when you doubt yourself. And say it until you no longer need to remind yourself, because it has become who you are. The crowd cannot understand this. They do not live by laws, they live by moods. They rise when others cheer them on, and they fall when others mock them. But you are different. You are learning to rise above moods, above ridicule, above the ebb and flow of popular opinion. You are learning to anchor your life in principles that do not change. This is what it means to be misunderstood, to be doubted, to be called crazy. It means you are walking a road few have the courage to travel. And it is this road that leads inevitably to victory. And when that victory comes, and it will, the same voices that laughed will fall silent. The same hands that pointed in ridicule will reach out in admiration, and they will ask you how you did it. And you will know in that moment that it was not their approval you needed. It was your own faith, your own discipline, your own persistence that carried you across the finish line. Now let us turn to a truth that few dare to confront directly: the price of winning. It is not given freely, nor is it won cheaply. Every great victory has been purchased with sacrifice. The man who desires freedom must sacrifice comfort. The woman who desires excellence must sacrifice distraction. The individual who desires mastery must sacrifice mediocrity. This is the unchanging law of life. Something must be given up so that something greater can be gained. And this, more than anything else, is why the world calls visionaries crazy. Because they watch you let go of what they cling to, and they cannot understand it. They see you sacrificing time that could be spent in leisure, sacrificing money that could be spent on pleasures, sacrificing approval that could be won through conformity. To them, this looks like madness. To you, it is simply the exchange rate of greatness. You see, society is addicted to immediacy. It wants the reward without the process, the applause without the effort, the harvest without the planting. And so when you live by principle instead of appetite, when you trade short-term comfort for long-term gain, you become an outlier. They say, why work late into the night when you could relax like everyone else? They say, why study when you could be entertained? Why save when you could spend? Why risk when you could stay safe? And they call you crazy because you are refusing the narcotic of ease. But what they do not see is that the price of ease is far higher than the price of discipline. Ease costs you your future. Discipline costs you only your comfort. And when the day of reckoning comes, when they are left with nothing but regret, you will be standing with the fruits of your labor in hand. Winning then requires not only vision and persistence, but also sacrifice. The man who wishes to climb a mountain cannot carry every possession with him. He must choose carefully, discarding the unnecessary so that he may ascend. In the same way, you must decide what you will let go of in order to rise. Old habits, old fears, old associations, these must be left behind. The crowd will not understand. They will say you have changed. They will call you selfish. They will accuse you of pride. But you must remember, you cannot carry everyone else's approval and still climb your own mountain. You must be willing to bear the loneliness of sacrifice, for it is temporary. The fruits of that sacrifice, however, are permanent. Let me tell you this, sacrifice is not loss. It is investment. The student who studies while others play is not losing playtime. He is investing in his future mastery. The entrepreneur who reinvests his profits instead of spending them is not losing enjoyment. He is securing freedom. The athlete who trains while others sleep is not losing rest. He is building a body capable of victory. Everything surrendered in the name of a worthy goal is not lost, it is transformed. It returns multiplied. And the world that once called you crazy for giving it up will one day call you wise for having made the trade. So here is the law for this moment, and I want you to write it and speak it aloud. Sacrifice is not loss, it is the price of greatness. Whisper it, say it slowly, let it brand itself upon your consciousness, because the day will come when you are tempted to surrender your goal for the sake of ease. And in that moment you must remember that every man pays a price, either the price of discipline today or the price of regret tomorrow. The choice is always yours. Consider again the lives of those we admire most in history. They were not spared sacrifice, they were defined by it. Lincoln bore years of ridicule, defeat, and solitude before his vision of unity was realized. Columbus faced rejection, mockery, and repeated failure before his voyage changed the map of the world. Each of these men gave up comfort, safety, and approval. Each of them was called crazy, and yet their sacrifices purchased legacies that still echo centuries later. If they had clung to comfort, we would not speak their names today. Sacrifice is the silent currency of greatness. Now let me address the fear that often hides beneath the question of sacrifice. People ask, what if I give up comfort and never succeed? What if I pay the price and never see the reward? And here is the truth, the reward is certain, because the law is certain. You cannot plant seeds of persistence, discipline, and sacrifice without reaping a harvest. It may not arrive on the timetable you demand, and it may not look exactly as you first imagined, but the harvest is inevitable. Life always pays back what is invested in it. And the man who persists in sowing wisely will never be left without a return. So let the crowd call you crazy when you sacrifice. Let them laugh when you say no to the comforts they worship. Let them shake their heads when you walk a different road. They do not see what you see. They do not know what you know. You are living by a higher law, one that guarantees results. And when your harvest arrives, they will no longer call you crazy. They will call you fortunate, as though fortune had anything to do with it. They will call you lucky, as though luck were anything but the name the average man gives to discipline he does not understand. So I urge you once again to write down this law and make it your own. I gladly pay the price of sacrifice, for it is the currency of my greatness. Say it in the morning, when comfort whispers to stay in bed. Say it at night when distractions beckon for your attention. Say it in the very moments when doubt tempts you to turn back. Let it remind you that you are not losing, you are investing. And the return on that investment will be far greater than anything the crowd could ever imagine. Now let us consider what it truly means to win, because the title of this message is not that they'll call you crazy forever, it is that they'll call you crazy until you win. That small word "until" carries within it the promise of transformation. It is the line between laughter and applause, between mockery and respect, between doubt and admiration. Winning is the fulcrum upon which opinion pivots. But what is winning? For many, it is mistaken as the mere accumulation of money, applause, or recognition. Yet winning is far more profound. Winning is the progressive realization of a worthy goal. Winning is the quiet knowledge that you are moving toward the vision you have set for yourself, day after day, step after step. It is not sudden, it is not random. It is the result of design, of discipline, of deliberate effort repeated until the invisible becomes visible. Most people believe that winning comes in bursts, that some lightning strike of fortune elevates one man above another, but nothing could be further from the truth. Fortune is not lightning. Fortune is the harvest of seeds sown with consistency. Show me a man who is called crazy, and I will show you a man who is sowing seeds the world cannot yet see. The ridicule, the doubt, the laughter, all of it is simply the waiting season before harvest. The farmer does not despair when he sees only soil, because he knows what lies beneath. In the same way, you must not despair when others cannot see your results. Winning begins beneath the surface. Winning begins in thought, then in habit, then in persistence, and only at the appointed season does it break forth into the visible world. The true test, therefore, is not whether you are called crazy, it is whether you persist long enough for your vision to ripen. Many surrender in the waiting season. They hear the laughter, they feel the sting of mockery, and they decide that perhaps the crowd was right. And in doing so, they uproot the very seeds that would have borne fruit. Persistence is the bridge between being called crazy and being called victorious. It is the unglamorous, often unseen bridge that most will never cross. They will ridicule you today and they will continue to ridicule you tomorrow. But if you keep walking, one day the very landscape changes. One day they will wake up and see that you are no longer where they left you. You have crossed the bridge and they are still on the other side. Winning, then, is not about sudden triumph, but about patient consistency. It is about aligning your thoughts, your actions, and your discipline so completely with your vision that time itself bends to your will. Let us be clear, there is no neutral ground. You are either moving closer to your goal or drifting farther from it. Every thought you hold, every action you take, every habit you form is either pulling you toward victory or pushing you toward defeat. And so winning is not a mystery. Winning is law. As you sow, so shall you reap. As you think, so shall you become. As you persist, so shall you prevail. Now I want you to pause and take this law into your own hands. Write it down not as my words, but as your own affirmation. I am walking the bridge between doubt and victory. Every step I take, no matter how small, carries me closer to my goal. Let that sink into you. Do not just read it, say it, whisper it, own it. Because the moment you claim it, you place yourself among the rare few who understand that winning is not an event, but a process. And in that process, ridicule is nothing more than background noise. You may think to yourself, but how long must I persist? How long must I endure being misunderstood? And the answer is as long as it takes. Time is not your enemy, it is your ally. The world measures by hours and days, but success measures by principles. If it takes a year, then a year is a small price. If it takes a decade, then a decade is still worth the harvest. Because when the day of victory comes, it erases the ridicule of 1,000 yesterdays. When the results arrive, no one will remember how long it took. They will only see that you endured when others gave up, and endurance is the crown of the victorious. But let me caution you, winning requires clarity. You cannot persist toward a fog. You cannot dedicate your days to a shadow. Your goal must be clear, defined, and written. A man without a clear goal is like a ship without a rudder. He may be moving, but he is drifting, and drifting always leads to shipwreck. If you have not yet written your goal on paper, do it now. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. Write what you desire most. Write it as though it is already yours, and then let that written word become the compass by which you steer your days. This act alone separates you from the 95 out of 100 who drift through life. Once you have your goal, once you have your vision written clearly, you must impress it upon your mind daily. You must rehearse it in thought, in word, in imagination, because what you hold in your mind you attract into your life. This is not magic, it is law. The man who thinks daily of defeat will unconsciously shape his actions to ensure it. The man who thinks daily of victory will unconsciously shape his actions to create it. And so I say again, winning is law. You cannot escape it. You cannot bypass it. You can only align with it or resist it. So when they call you crazy, remember that they are measuring by appearances, while you are measuring by principles. They see only the soil, you see the seed. They see only the waiting, you see the harvest. They see only your persistence, you see the inevitable result. This is why you must never surrender to their laughter. You must instead anchor yourself in law, in clarity, and in persistence. And when you feel weary, when you wonder if the day of victory will ever come, I want you to speak these words aloud. I am already winning. With every thought, every action, every habit, I am becoming the person I was destined to be. Say it until the doubt fades. Say it until the laughter no longer wounds. Say it until you know that you are not waiting for victory. You are already living it, one step at a time. Let us move now to one of the most vital elements in the making of a winner: discipline. Discipline is the invisible architecture upon which all greatness is built. It is the quiet strength that guides your steps when emotions scream against you. It is the steady hand that turns your vision into reality, not once, not occasionally, but day after day, year after year. The crowd despises discipline because it demands consistency, and consistency exposes the weakness of comfort. This is why when you practice discipline, when you say no to impulses, when you say yes to routines, when you obey the plan you have set, the undisciplined will look upon you with scorn. They will call you rigid. They will call you obsessed. And yes, once again, they will call you crazy. But make no mistake, discipline is the very instrument by which you will silence them in the end. Understand this. Without discipline, desire is nothing more than a dream. Without discipline, vision is nothing more than fantasy. Discipline is the bridge that carries you from intention to realization. A man may say, I want success, I want freedom, I want wealth. But if he cannot rise each morning with purpose, if he cannot master the small daily habits that appear mundane, then he will forever remain chained to his wants. The man who disciplines himself, however, transforms his wants into certainties. He does not leave success to chance. He builds it brick by brick, through actions so consistent that they become identity itself. Now here is the challenge. Discipline will often feel like loss in the moment. It will feel like denying yourself pleasures, denying yourself indulgences, denying yourself rest. And to the undisciplined, this looks like suffering. But remember what we learned earlier. Sacrifice is not loss, it is investment. Discipline is not suffering, it is sowing. Each moment you discipline yourself, you are sowing seeds that will multiply into rewards beyond measure. The athlete disciplines his body, and in return he gains strength. The scholar disciplines his mind, and in return he gains wisdom. The entrepreneur disciplines his habits, and in return he gains wealth. Discipline is always rewarded. Write this law and say it with me. Discipline is my greatest freedom. Speak it aloud. Let it settle into your mind. Say it not once, but until your spirit agrees with it. Because though the crowd thinks discipline is bondage, the truth is the opposite. The man without discipline is a slave to moods, to impulses, to distractions. He does what he feels like doing, and therefore accomplishes little. The disciplined man, on the other hand, is free. Free to build, free to create, free to achieve, because he is no longer shackled to the momentary whims that enslave others. Consider the great pyramids, the cathedrals, the inventions that reshaped the world. None of them were built in a single day of inspiration. They were built through the relentless march of discipline, stone by stone, step by step. The men who built them were not applauded in the process. They were often ridiculed, doubted, and scorned. But their discipline outlasted their critics, and today, centuries later, the critics are forgotten, while the fruits of discipline still stand. So too will it be with you. Your critics will fade, their laughter will vanish, but the results of your discipline will stand as monuments to your persistence. Yet, discipline is not only about great projects, it is about small victories repeated, rising at the hour you promised yourself. Reading the page you committed to, practicing the skill you vowed to master, refusing the indulgence that weakens your resolve. Each small act of discipline, though invisible in the moment, compounds. And in time, those compounded acts create a life so strong, so resilient, that the undisciplined can scarcely comprehend it. This is why they call you crazy, because they cannot imagine living with such consistency, and yet that consistency is the very essence of freedom. Think of the man who disciplines his finances. He saves, he invests, he restrains himself from unnecessary spending. His peers laugh, calling him stingy, calling him paranoid. But when the years pass, when storms come, he stands secure while they scramble. Or the woman who disciplines her health. She eats well, exercises, restrains from indulgences. Her friends call her obsessed, but when time passes, she thrives while they decay. Discipline always speaks last, and its voice is victory. So I tell you again, discipline is not optional for the one who seeks to win. It is the non-negotiable law. Without it, you drift. With it, you direct. Without it, you crumble. With it, you conquer. And though the world may mock you in the process, though they may call you rigid, though they may whisper that you have gone too far, one day your results will be undeniable. And then the same people who doubted you will call you fortunate, as though fortune had anything to do with it. So take your pen and write this affirmation once more and make it your own. Discipline is my greatest freedom. Whisper it in the quiet moments when you want to quit. Say it aloud when the weight of routine feels heavy. Repeat it when others laugh at your persistence. Because when you do, you anchor yourself to the one principle that will carry you across every obstacle and silence every doubt. Now let us explore the inner battlefield upon which every victory is first won or lost, the battlefield of attitude. You see, your attitude is not a decoration, it is not something you put on when the day is bright and discard when the storm comes. Your attitude is the lens through which you view the world, and that lens colors everything you see. A man with a defeated attitude can walk into opportunity and see only obstacles. A man with a victorious attitude can walk into obstacles and see only opportunity. This is why two men can face the same circumstance, and one will crumble while the other rises. The difference is not in the circumstance, but in the attitude with which they meet it. Attitude is contagious. It radiates from you like light or casts from you like shadow. People respond not to the words you speak, but to the spirit in which you carry yourself. A man who believes himself beaten will unconsciously teach others to treat him as defeated. A woman who believes herself worthy will, without a word, command respect. Attitude is not hidden, it seeps into your walk, your tone, your choices. And if you wish to win, you must discipline your attitude as carefully as a soldier sharpens his weapon. Because life will not always hand you ease, but it will always mirror your inner stance. Now let me tell you something startling. Your environment, your results, your opportunities, they are not accidents. They are mirrors, reflecting back to you the image you hold within. If you are dissatisfied with what you see around you, do not curse the mirror. Change the image. Change your attitude. For the man who carries gratitude in his heart will see blessings everywhere. The man who carries bitterness in his heart will see obstacles everywhere. Life reflects who we are more faithfully than any polished glass. And the man who understands this never again wastes energy blaming others, because he knows the root lies within. But here lies the difficulty. Attitude is not tested in moments of ease, it is tested in moments of pressure. Anyone can smile when the sun is shining. Anyone can believe when the road is smooth. The test comes when storms rise, when doubts surround, when the crowd calls you crazy and your own heart begins to whisper the same. In those moments, attitude is either your anchor or your undoing. The average man allows his attitude to be shaped by circumstance. The victorious man shapes his attitude in advance, regardless of circumstance. This is the secret, this is the discipline, to decide before the storm how you will stand within it. And so I urge you now, write down this law and speak it aloud until it becomes your shield. My attitude creates my world. Say it once, say it again, let it echo in your mind until it becomes second nature. Because when you believe this law, you gain mastery over your destiny. You stop being a victim of circumstance, and you start becoming the architect of your results. If you believe the world is hostile, it will appear so. If you believe the world is rich with opportunity, it will reveal itself. The choice is always yours. Think of the pioneers, the inventors, the leaders who stood against ridicule. They did not carry attitudes of fear or resentment. They carried attitudes of faith, conviction, and possibility. When the Wright brothers faced failure after failure, their attitude was not defeat, but determination. When Edison faced thousands of unsuccessful experiments, his attitude was not despair, but discovery. When every voice said, "It cannot be done," their attitude said, "It will be done." And that is why history remembers them. Not because they faced no obstacles, but because they chose an attitude that refused to yield. This means that winning is not about escaping storms, but about deciding how you will walk through them. Picture the sailor who faces rough seas. He cannot calm the ocean, but he can set his sails. He cannot stop the wind, but he can harness it. Attitude is the setting of your sails. If you set them right, even the fiercest storm will carry you forward. If you set them wrong, even a gentle breeze will leave you stranded. And so I ask you, how have you set your sails? Have you allowed the opinions of others, the laughter of the crowd, the sting of doubt to lower them? Or have you raised them high, determined to reach your destination no matter what the winds may be? There is no neutrality here. You cannot avoid attitude. You either master it or it masters you. You either choose it consciously or it chooses you unconsciously. And if you let it choose for you, it will always choose the path of least resistance, the path of defeat. But if you take control, if you write the law upon your heart, then nothing outside of you can determine your fate. The ridicule of others will glance off you like rain on stone. The storms of circumstance will only prove your resolve, because you will have built your foundation not upon shifting sands, but upon the solid rock of chosen attitude. So I ask you now, as plainly as I can, what attitude will you choose? Will you choose bitterness, or will you choose gratitude? Will you choose fear, or will you choose faith? Will you choose defeat, or will you choose victory? The choice, though simple, will alter the entire trajectory of your life. For your attitude is not a small thing, it is everything. And if you will discipline it, if you will claim it, if you will declare it each day, then no storm, no ridicule, no obstacle can keep you from the destiny that is waiting for you. And so as we close this part, take your pen and write once more, "My attitude creates my world." Say it with conviction. Say it until it becomes the melody of your thoughts. Say it until you no longer need to remind yourself, because it has become who you are, and then carry it with you into every storm, every doubt, every whisper of ridicule. For when you do, the world will have no choice but to reflect it back to you in the form of victory. There is another dimension we must address, and it may be the most misunderstood of all, the role of faith. Not faith in the abstract, not faith as a vague religious sentiment, but faith as a living, practical force that shapes your every action. Faith is the unseen energy that fuels persistence when evidence is scarce. Faith is the assurance that the seeds you have planted will break through the soil, even when days and weeks pass with no sign of growth. Without faith, discipline soon becomes drudgery. Without faith, sacrifice feels like loss. Without faith, vision collapses under the weight of doubt. This is why the man without faith is quickly broken by ridicule. He cannot endure what he does not yet see. But the man with faith walks calmly through the storm, knowing the sun will shine again. He is called crazy, but within his heart he carries certainty. Understand this. Every great achievement begins twice, once in the mind and once in reality. Faith is the bridge between the two. The mind conceives it, faith sustains it, and action makes it manifest. If you look closely at the world's greatest leaders, inventors, and builders, you will notice something remarkable. They believed in their vision long before the evidence appeared. Columbus believed there was land across the sea when the experts swore he was wrong. Edison believed he could light the world when failure screamed otherwise. Every so-called crazy man who became a winner shared this one trait, faith that would not yield. Now here is the law, and I want you to speak it and write it until it echoes within you. I walk by faith, not by doubt. Say it softly, say it boldly. Let it become your anthem. Because in moments when the ridicule grows loud, you will need a voice louder still inside you, and that voice must be faith. Faith says, I am not bound by appearances. Faith says the vision I hold is more real than the doubts I hear. Faith says, though others call me crazy, I am certain of my destiny. And when faith becomes your dominant thought, the world cannot help but rearrange itself to match it. You may ask, but how do I build such faith? How do I strengthen it when doubts surround me? The answer is repetition. Just as a muscle is built through repeated use, faith is built through repeated thought. Write your goal, read it daily, speak it aloud, imagine it as already accomplished. Surround yourself with the words and images that reinforce your belief. The mind cannot help but believe what it sees and hears consistently. And so, if you flood it with vision, it will yield faith. But if you flood it with fear, it will yield doubt. This is why environment matters. Guard your mind as carefully as a farmer guards his fields. Do not allow the weeds of negativity to take root, for they will strangle the very harvest you seek. Think of the airplane, heavy and bound by gravity, yet capable of flight. How? Because the law of lift, when applied with precision, overcomes the law of gravity. In the same way, the law of faith, when applied with persistence, overcomes the law of doubt. Doubt is natural, doubt is universal, but doubt need not be final. Faith, when exercised, always rises higher. It takes what seems impossible and turns it into the inevitable. And this is why faith is misunderstood. The crowd cannot see what you see. They cannot feel the certainty you feel. They only see the weight of gravity, while you see the power of lift. They call you crazy because they do not understand the law that carries you. And let me remind you, faith is not passive. Faith does not sit idly and wait. Faith acts, faith works, faith endures. The man who claims to have faith but refuses to act has only illusion. True faith expresses itself in work, in sacrifice, in persistence. It is seen not in words, but in the quiet daily actions that align with belief. When you rise early, when you persist through ridicule, when you discipline yourself in the unseen hours, that is faith made visible. And in time, the results will shout what your words whispered. So let the world call you crazy. Let them laugh at your belief in something they cannot yet see. Let them whisper doubts when you speak of visions they cannot comprehend. Their laughter is not proof of your folly, it is proof of your faith. For faith always looks like madness until it becomes reality. And when the day comes, when your vision stands solid and undeniable, the same voices that mocked will marvel, and they will call you fortunate, as though fortune had anything to do with it. So write it again and let it be carved into your heart. I walk by faith, not by doubt. Say it when the harvest seems distant. Say it when the ridicule grows loud. Say it until faith becomes the rhythm of your being. For when you live by faith, ridicule loses its power, doubt loses its grip, and destiny itself bends to your belief. And now we come to the culmination of everything we have spoken of, the quiet transformation that takes place when vision, sacrifice, discipline, and faith have done their work. For the truth is, you will not be called crazy forever. The laughter, the whispers, the mockery, these are but temporary shadows cast upon the rising light of your destiny. And when you endure, when you persist, when you refuse to abandon the laws that govern success, the world will turn. The very mouths that once dismissed you will now seek your words. The very eyes that once looked down upon you will look up. The same crowd that once said, "He is mad, she is foolish," will now say, "How wise, how fortunate." And yet you will know it was never madness, never luck, it was law, applied patiently, faithfully, relentlessly. Let me tell you why this matters. Because in the end, the purpose of winning is not simply applause or recognition. These things, while sweet for a moment, are shallow if they are the only prize. The deeper purpose of winning is transformation. It is the becoming of a person who no longer bends under ridicule, who no longer sways under doubt, who no longer drifts with the tides of opinion. The true victory is not what you gain, but who you become. And who you become is a man or woman forged by vision, strengthened by sacrifice, upheld by discipline, and lifted by faith. This, above all, is what they cannot take from you. This is why, in the end, even if the applause never comes, you will still have won. Consider again the rhythm of history. Every figure who stood alone against the tide of ridicule eventually found himself standing at the shore of admiration. Galileo, once condemned, now celebrated. Socrates, once mocked, now revered. Every voice that dared to differ was called crazy in its time. And yet the passage of time always vindicates truth. It may take years, it may take decades, but the laws of success and greatness are not bound by immediate recognition. They are eternal, and they always deliver their verdict in the end. If you align yourself with those laws, the world has no choice but to catch up. But I must tell you, even in that moment when the applause comes, you must not live for it. For applause fades, approval shifts, what is celebrated today may be forgotten tomorrow. If you anchor your spirit to the cheers of others, you will once again be their prisoner. No, anchor yourself instead to the eternal principles we have spoken of. Anchor yourself to vision, to sacrifice, to discipline, to faith. These do not fade. These do not change. These will hold you steady long after the noise of recognition is past. And in that steadiness, you will find peace. So here is the final law I want you to write down, to speak aloud, and to carry with you as a shield. I am unmoved by ridicule, unbound by doubt, and certain of my victory. Say it with conviction. Whisper it in the silence of the morning. Declare it when the world shouts against you. Let it become the final imprint upon your mind, for it will sustain you when everything else fades. The truth is this: they will call you crazy until you win. But winning is inevitable when you align your life with the laws that govern success. The law of thought, that you become what you think about. The law of sacrifice, that nothing great is gained without a price. The law of discipline, that persistence in small things builds greatness in large things. The law of faith, that belief is the substance of reality. And the law of attitude, that the world reflects what you carry within. These laws do not fail. They have carried men and women from obscurity to greatness for centuries, and they will carry you if you will commit to them fully. So take courage. Do not shrink back when laughter comes. Do not falter when whispers grow loud. Do not surrender when the world doubts you. For these are the very signs that you are on the right path. These are the proofs that you are daring to live differently. And if you will endure, if you will persist, if you will hold fast, then one day the voices will change. And when they do, you will not need their validation, for you will already know what you have become. And so I close with this challenge to you. Do not wait. Do not hesitate. Take the laws you have heard, write them down, speak them daily, live them faithfully. Plant them in the soil of your mind until they grow into the towering tree of your destiny. And when you stand beneath its shade, when you hold its fruit, when the world looks at you in awe and whispers of your success, remember that it all began in the days when they called you crazy. And you will smile because you will know that being called crazy was the greatest compliment you ever received. From the dawn of civilization, man has sought to rise above his present circumstances. He has gazed at the stars and wondered what destiny had in store for him, and he has looked within himself and asked how he might carve his own path toward greatness. History tells us the story of individuals who, though born in the same world as the rest of us, managed to rise mentally, spiritually, financially, and in every way that matters. What separated them from those who remained in the shadows of mediocrity? It was not mere luck, nor privilege, nor the caprice of chance. It was something more profound: the trained mind, the disciplined thought, the deliberate shaping of the inner world that manifests itself in the outer. To train the mind to rise is not a luxury, nor is it a pastime reserved for philosophers or poets. It is the law of success, and it is the very foundation of a life lived with purpose, direction, and achievement. When we speak of training the mind, we are not speaking of some abstract exercise. We are speaking of the most practical, most necessary act any man or woman can undertake. The mind is the workshop of every idea, the birthplace of every invention, the field upon which the seeds of destiny are sown. Yet for most people, it remains untrained, untamed, drifting aimlessly like a ship without a rudder. They rise in the morning, move through their days, and retire at night, but the patterns of thought within them remain unexamined, undirected, and uncontrolled. And so their results remain stagnant, their lives mere echoes of yesterday. But the individual who takes command of his mind, who trains it as a gardener trains the soil, discovers a power so immense, so transformative, that he can scarcely recognize his former self. Think for a moment about the difference between wild land and cultivated land. Left alone, the soil produces weeds, thorns, and chaos. But in the hands of the skilled farmer, it yields wheat, fruit, and abundance. The same law governs the mind. Left alone, it produces fear, doubt, limitation, and confusion. Trained and cultivated, it produces faith, confidence, ideas, and prosperity. It is the law of cause and effect at work in the most personal arena of life. And here is the truth that so few discover. We are not the victims of circumstance nearly as much as we are the victims of undisciplined thought. Circumstance is the child of mind. Train the mind and you train the life. Neglect the mind and life drifts into aimless struggle. Now you may ask, how does one begin this training? The answer is at once simple and profound, by becoming conscious of the thoughts you permit to dwell in your mind and by deliberately replacing the destructive with the constructive. Your mind cannot hold two dominant pictures at the same time. If you fill it with fear, faith cannot enter. If you fill it with doubt, confidence is excluded. But if you deliberately plant the seeds of belief, of vision, of persistence, you will watch your life bend itself in that direction. The laws of the mind are as dependable as the laws of gravity. They work whether or not we are aware of them. To rise, you must cooperate with these laws consciously, purposefully, and daily. One of the most powerful truths you will ever discover is this: you become what you think about. Say it aloud. Write it down. You become what you think about. This law has guided kings, inventors, philosophers, and leaders through the centuries, and it will guide you if you let it. The human being is not a creature of accident. He is a creature of thought. His present circumstances, his wealth or lack of it, his joy or misery, his direction or confusion, these are but the outward manifestations of the inner patterns of thought he is allowed to dominate. And the marvelous news is that by training the mind, by directing thought, by choosing belief over fear, you can rise as high as you dare to set your vision. Consider for a moment what you feed your mind each day. Every book you read, every conversation you hold, every image you allow before your eyes, every word you repeat to yourself, all of these are seeds. The question is not whether you are planting, for you are always planting. The question is, what harvest are you preparing for? The individual who surrounds himself with defeatist talk, with cynicism, with idle distraction, should not be surprised to reap confusion and stagnation. The individual who surrounds himself with ideas of strength, with affirmations of possibility, with visions of a greater tomorrow, will inevitably reap growth, advancement, and victory. The harvest cannot be cheated. It is precise, it is exact, it is unfailing. If you wish to train your mind to rise, begin today by taking an inventory of your dominant thoughts. Ask yourself, do they lift me or do they drag me down? Do they inspire me or do they paralyze me? Do they expand my vision or do they shrink it to the size of my fears? Every thought is either a step upward or a step downward. There is no neutral ground. You are always rising or falling, never standing still. And the beauty of this law is that at any moment you can choose to redirect. You can choose to plant new seeds, to imagine new visions, to affirm new truths. The past may have been filled with weeds, but today the field is in your hands. This is not a task of mere moments. Just as the body is strengthened by repeated exercise, the mind is trained by repeated thought. One cannot expect a single positive thought to transform a lifetime of conditioning, but through daily practice, through persistent repetition, through deliberate cultivation, the grooves of the mind are reshaped, the patterns are rewritten, and the destiny is altered. You must train daily. Set aside time each morning to declare to yourself who you are, what you intend, what you believe. These declarations are not idle words. They are the building blocks of character, the blueprints of destiny. So let us begin here with a declaration that I want you to speak aloud, to write on paper, and to carry in your heart. It is a law, and if you will repeat it daily, you will ingrain it in your subconscious mind. I am one with powerful thoughts. I am free of fear and doubt. I rise because my mind is trained to rise. Say it, write it, live it. For as surely as the sun rises in the east, the mind that is trained to rise will lift the life along with it. The moment you decide to train your mind to rise, you separate yourself from the vast majority of people who move through life without ever questioning the invisible patterns guiding their days. Most individuals live as if on autopilot, repeating the same habits, reacting to the same fears, entertaining the same doubts, and hoping that somehow tomorrow will be different. But hope without discipline is nothing more than wishful thinking. To rise requires decision. It requires the act of seizing the reins of the mind and saying, from this day forward, I will no longer be a servant to my moods, my fears, or my old conditioning. I will become the master of my own thought. And when that decision is made, when it is carved into the deepest part of your being, a new kind of life begins, a life of responsibility, clarity, and direction. Now let us be clear, the training of the mind is not a temporary experiment. It is not something you dabble in when you feel inspired and abandon when you feel weary. It is a lifelong discipline. Just as the muscles of the body weaken when they are no longer exercised, so the strength of the mind diminishes when it is left unattended. But when you persist in daily practice, the mind becomes a faithful servant, a powerful instrument, and a guiding compass. Those who master this discipline will find that they can remain calm in the midst of storms, resolute in the face of setbacks, and steadfast in the pursuit of their goals. A great truth to remember is this: discipline precedes freedom. Say it, write it, remember it. Discipline precedes freedom. This is a paradox that confuses many, for they assume freedom means the absence of restriction. But the reality is that true freedom only comes when the self is mastered. The pianist is free to create music because he has submitted to years of practice. The pilot is free to soar above the clouds because he has disciplined himself to learn the laws of flight. And the individual who disciplines his mind is free to live fully, to create abundantly, to rise without fear, because he has mastered the laws of thought. Without discipline, there is only drifting. With discipline, there is power. What then does this discipline look like in practice? It begins with the simple act of self-observation. Throughout the day, watch your thoughts as you would watch a river flowing past. Notice what images dominate your mind, what fears try to intrude, what doubts attempt to take root. Do not condemn yourself for them, but do not let them go unchallenged either. Each time you catch a thought that drags you downward, replace it with one that lifts you upward. If fear whispers, answer with faith. If doubt murmurs, reply with confidence. If confusion stirs, answer with clarity. In time, this practice becomes automatic, and the mind becomes trained to reject the weeds and embrace the seeds of greatness. Consider how the athlete trains his body. He does not simply think about running, he runs. He does not merely imagine lifting, he lifts. He repeats the motion until the muscles grow strong and the form becomes natural. The training of the mind is no different. You cannot merely wish to think positively, you must practice it. You cannot merely hope to be courageous, you must declare it and act upon it. Every affirmation spoken, every vision held, every fear conquered is a repetition that strengthens the muscle of thought. And just as the body transforms under the weight of training, so the mind transforms under the discipline of repetition. There is another truth you must write down and speak aloud, for it is a cornerstone of this discipline. My dominant thoughts shape my reality. My dominant thoughts shape my reality. Repeat it until it sinks into you. For this is not poetry, it is law. The life you experience today is the harvest of yesterday's thoughts, and the life you will experience tomorrow is the harvest of today's thoughts. If you dwell on lack, you prepare for lack. If you dwell on opportunity, you prepare for opportunity. If you dwell on fear, you prepare for defeat. If you dwell on courage, you prepare for victory. It cannot be otherwise, because the law is exact. The beauty of this discipline is that it does not require brilliance, wealth, or privilege. It requires only consistency. Anyone, no matter his background, no matter his starting point, can begin today to direct his thoughts, to practice discipline, to rise above the common drift of the masses. There is no barrier but the one within, and there is no limit but the one you accept. History is filled with men and women who began in obscurity, yet through the discipline of their minds lifted themselves to greatness. They trained their thoughts, they held their visions, they acted with faith, and the world made room for them. But beware, for the opposite is also true. Neglect the mind and the weeds of mediocrity will grow unchecked. Allow fear to rule and you will become its servant. Permit doubt to dominate and you will shrink your world to fit your limitations. The untrained mind does not remain neutral. It declines, it drifts, it decays. That is why this discipline is not optional if you wish to rise. It is essential. You must take it as seriously as a soldier takes his weapon, as a surgeon takes his instruments, as a builder takes his tools. For your mind is the instrument of destiny, and without its discipline, the structure of your life cannot stand. So let us affirm once more, and let this become a law written not only on your paper but upon your heart. Discipline precedes freedom. I am master of my mind, and through discipline I create my destiny. Say it aloud, write it down, and let it guide your actions. For when the mind is disciplined, the life is free, and when the mind is free, the individual can rise to any height he dares to envision. If you have followed me closely thus far, you now understand that the training of the mind is not an abstract philosophy, but a law of cause and effect, as real as gravity. And when we talk about rising, we must also talk about the battles that will attempt to hold you down. Every individual who has sought to elevate himself has discovered the resistance of the old patterns. These patterns are like grooves carved deep into the mind, grooves formed by years of repeated thinking, living, and believing. To rise means to climb out of those grooves and carve new ones deliberately. This is why so many begin but so few continue, for the old conditioning whispers, "Stay where you are, it's safer here." But you must recognize that the greatest danger lies not in the unknown ahead, but in the comfort of staying behind. Understand this truth: comfort is the enemy of greatness. Say it aloud, write it down. Comfort is the enemy of greatness. It may soothe you for a season, but in the end it strangles the will, numbs the vision, and keeps you chained to mediocrity. The comfortable life is the stagnant life. The rising life is the disciplined life. And though the path of discipline may be narrow and demanding, it opens into horizons that comfort will never allow you to see. You must decide which you want more, the fleeting ease of today or the enduring greatness of tomorrow. When you train your mind to rise, you will notice something remarkable. Your environment begins to shift in response to your new inner direction. People who once influenced you lose their hold. Opportunities that once seemed invisible begin to appear. Circumstances that once trapped you begin to release their grip. This is no accident. The world is a mirror, reflecting back to us the thoughts we hold within. Change the thoughts and the reflection changes. Many think the world must change first, that conditions must improve before they can feel strong or confident. But the truth is the opposite. The inner change comes first, the outer change follows. The rising mind creates the rising life. Think of the mind as a magnet. Whatever dominates your inner world is what you draw into your outer world. If you train the magnet with fear, it attracts fear. If you charge it with doubt, it pulls in failure. But if you strengthen it with belief, it draws opportunity. If you fill it with vision, it attracts direction. The law is as certain as the sun's rising, and once you grasp it, you will never again waste your time blaming circumstances or envying others. You will know that your power lies in training the magnet of your mind. You are not at the mercy of fate, you are the architect of it. This is why clarity of purpose is essential. A mind trained without a goal is like a sharpened blade without a target. It has energy but no direction. To rise, you must know where you are going. What do you want? What do you seek to build, to achieve, to become? Write it down, picture it, repeat it daily. For the mind cannot rise toward a vague dream, it rises toward a definite vision. And once that vision is clear, once it is repeated with conviction, the subconscious mind aligns itself with it, working tirelessly, day and night, to move you toward it. The subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between imagination and reality. Whatever you feed it with repetition, it accepts as fact, so give it the facts you want to live. Here is a law I want you to ingrain deeply. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy goal. Say it, write it, remember it. Success is not a sudden event, nor is it measured by applause, nor is it granted by chance. It is the steady, deliberate rising toward a goal that matters. Each step forward, each thought disciplined, each fear conquered is success. And as long as you continue progressing, as long as you continue rising, you are already successful. Do not wait for a single day in the future to declare it. Declare it now, live it now, and in doing so, you multiply it. Many people believe success belongs only to the few, to the gifted, to those born with advantages. But the law is universal. Success belongs to anyone who trains his mind, who fixes his gaze on a worthy goal, and who rises daily toward it. The individual who sells fruit at a market, if he does so with vision, integrity, and progress, is as successful as the man who builds a corporation. The mother who raises her children with love, clarity, and growth is as successful as the leader who inspires nations. For success is not the size of the goal, but the faithfulness of the rise. But remember, the moment you set a goal and begin to rise toward it, resistance will appear, doubt will whisper, fear will argue, obstacles will present themselves. This is not proof that you are failing, it is proof that you are moving. Every resistance is a test, and every test is an invitation to strengthen the mind. Do not ask for fewer obstacles, ask for greater strength. Do not ask for easier paths, ask for a trained mind. The resistance is not there to stop you, it is there to shape you. And those who persist through it discover that the obstacle itself becomes the path to mastery. So let us affirm another law together, for it will serve as your shield in times of resistance. I am stronger than doubt. I am greater than fear. I am success in progress. Write it, say it, repeat it. For when you declare it often enough, it becomes the belief of your subconscious, and belief creates reality. Success is not a distant destination, it is the rising mind that refuses to stop. Train your mind to rise, and nothing can keep you from climbing higher. The mind that is trained to rise must also learn the art of persistence, for no great ascent is ever achieved in a single leap. Mountains are climbed step by step, oceans are crossed wave by wave, and destinies are shaped day by day. Too many abandon the climb because they expect results to arrive swiftly, forgetting that the greatest works of life require patience, endurance, and a willingness to continue when others quit. The untrained mind seeks instant gratification, but the rising mind understands that persistence is the law of growth. Just as a seed must remain in the soil through seasons of rain and sun before it breaks the ground and bears fruit, so too must your vision endure through seasons of waiting, through times of silence, until it blossoms into reality. Let me give you a truth that you should write down and repeat often. Persistence breaks resistance. Say it aloud, write it, ingrain it. Persistence breaks resistance. Every obstacle, no matter how immovable it appears, eventually yields to the force of persistent effort. The stone is worn away not by a single drop of water, but by the continual dripping across time. The iron is bent not by a gentle touch, but by repeated pressure. And the mind, when persistently directed toward faith, vision, and determination, becomes unstoppable. Nothing in the world can resist the man or woman who refuses to quit. The danger, however, is that most people mistake temporary difficulty for permanent defeat. They face a setback, they meet with delay, they experience rejection, and they say to themselves, perhaps this is not for me. And in that moment, they betray their vision. But the truth is that every rejection is a redirection, every delay is preparation, and every setback is the forge in which persistence is tempered. The man who rises is not the one who never stumbles, but the one who continues after every stumble, who takes the lesson, strengthens his resolve, and presses forward. Persistence is not blind stubbornness. It is intelligent resilience. It is the ability to adjust, to learn, to refine your methods while never abandoning your goal. The ship that sails toward its destination may face storms, may alter its sails, may shift its course, but it does not abandon the harbor it set out for. So too must you remain fixed on your vision, even if the route changes, even if the winds shift. The destination is certain for the one who persists. There is a law that says energy flows where attention goes. Write this down. Say it often. Energy flows where attention goes. When your attention remains fixed on your vision, your energy organizes around it, your subconscious aligns with it, and your environment begins to adjust in response to it. But when your attention wavers, when you scatter your focus among distractions, your energy disperses and your progress slows. Persistence requires focus, and focus is nothing more than the discipline of keeping your attention where it belongs, on the vision that lifts you upward. Think of the great achievers of history, the inventors, the leaders, the pioneers. None of them reached their heights without persistence. Edison tested thousands of times before the light bulb became reality. Lincoln lost elections again and again before he became president. Each could have quit, each could have abandoned his vision, but they persisted, and it was persistence that carried them from failure to triumph, from obscurity to greatness. Their minds were trained not to yield, not to retreat, but to rise again and again until success was inevitable. You may not face battles of the same scale, but the law is the same. The student who persists in study, the worker who persists in improvement, the entrepreneur who persists in vision, all are rising in their own fields. Success is rarely about brilliance or luck, it is about persistence. And the wonderful truth is that persistence is a choice available to anyone. You may not control the winds, but you can control whether you keep moving forward, and that decision makes all the difference. The trained mind understands this and draws strength from it. When discouragement arises, it answers with persistence. When fatigue sets in, it replies with persistence. When the world says no, it declares with quiet determination, I will continue. This is the voice of the rising mind, and with every act of persistence, the mind grows stronger, the will grows sharper, and the vision grows nearer. So, let us speak together a declaration that will become your anchor in the face of adversity. I do not quit, I do not retreat, I rise until I reach. Write it down, say it aloud, let it live in your heart. For persistence is the power that transforms dreams into reality, visions into achievements, and ordinary men into extraordinary leaders. Train your mind to persist, and you will train your life to rise. To train the mind to rise also means to recognize the immense power of attitude, for attitude is the lens through which we interpret every circumstance. Two men can walk through the same storm. One curses the rain and sees only misery. The other blesses it and sees the nourishment it brings to the soil. The storm is the same, but the result is vastly different because attitude determines perception, and perception shapes reality. If you would rise, you must take full command of your attitude, for it is not something handed to you by the world, it is something chosen by you in every moment. And once you realize this, once you understand that your environment reflects your inner posture, you will never again give away that power to others. Here is a law I want you to ingrain. Attitude is the mirror of the mind. Say it aloud, write it down. Attitude is the mirror of the mind. Whatever you project inwardly is reflected outwardly in the circumstances of your life. A cheerful and resolute attitude draws cooperation, opportunity, and resilience. A bitter and defeated attitude repels success, isolates companions, and multiplies difficulty. Many blame the world for their misfortune without ever realizing that their attitude is the silent architect of those conditions. Change the attitude, and the environment begins to change. Guard your attitude as carefully as a treasurer guards gold, for it is the currency that buys the quality of your days. You may wonder how one can maintain a positive attitude in the face of real hardship. The answer is not denial, it is perspective. Hardship will come, as it comes to every life, but you are not bound by the hardship, you are bound by the meaning you assign to it. The rising mind chooses to see every difficulty as a teacher, every setback as a lesson, every closed door as a redirection. This perspective transforms what could have been a weight into a stepping stone. A trained attitude does not pretend the storm isn't there. It simply chooses to rise above it, to use it as fuel, to let it harden resolve instead of softening spirit. Think for a moment of the workplace. Two employees are given the same task. One grumbles, delays, and delivers mediocre results. The other embraces it with energy, delivers it with excellence, and earns trust. The difference is not in the task, but in the attitude, and that difference accumulates. Over time, the one with a positive and disciplined attitude rises, while the other remains stagnant. Life works the same way. Attitude compounds. Every day you project confidence, you strengthen your magnet. Every day you project resilience, you expand your capacity. Attitude is the multiplier of effort. The truth is this: your attitude is your choice. You cannot always choose the conditions of your life, but you can always choose the posture of your mind. Say it aloud. My attitude is my choice. Write it down. My attitude is my choice. This is one of the most liberating discoveries you will ever make. For when you stop blaming conditions, when you stop pointing at others, when you take full responsibility for your attitude, you gain freedom. No one can take it from you. No one can dictate it unless you allow them to. And in that freedom lies the key to rising higher than the world ever expected. The untrained mind believes that attitude is reactive, that it must respond to whatever happens. But the trained mind knows that attitude is proactive, that it can shape what happens next. When you walk into a room with confidence and composure, you influence the atmosphere of that room. When you meet difficulty with calm strength, you shape the outcome of that difficulty. When you rise each morning declaring gratitude, your day bends itself toward opportunity. Attitude is not passive, it is active. It is a force, and when directed, it becomes the wind beneath your rising. Consider those who have endured great trials and still risen to greatness. They were not exempt from pain, they were not spared from suffering, but they carried an attitude that refused to be defeated. Nelson Mandela endured decades in prison, yet his attitude of dignity and forgiveness turned chains into a platform for freedom. Helen Keller lived without sight or hearing, yet her attitude of courage and learning turned her into a voice for millions. These lives prove beyond doubt that circumstances cannot imprison the rising mind, for attitude is stronger than environment. Every day you live, your attitude either builds a ladder upward or digs a pit downward. Which will you choose? It is not decided once, it is decided moment by moment, choice by choice, thought by thought. And as with any discipline, the more often you choose the rising attitude, the more natural it becomes. It becomes a habit, a reflex, a way of being. And once that happens, life itself responds differently. Opportunities approach, people are drawn to you. Circumstances begin to align, not because of magic, but because the mirror of your mind reflects new conditions into reality. So let us seal this truth with a declaration that you will write, repeat, and remember. My attitude is my power. I choose strength, I choose gratitude, I choose to rise. Say it aloud, write it down, and let it shape the mirror of your mind. For when attitude is mastered, destiny is no longer a question, it is a certainty. The trained mind rises, and the rising mind transforms the world around it. The rising mind must also understand the principle of sacrifice, for no ascent is possible without letting go of the weights that hold you down. Sacrifice is often misunderstood as loss, as deprivation, as something to be feared. But in truth, sacrifice is not loss, it is investment. It is the deliberate exchange of the lesser for the greater, the immediate for the lasting, the comfortable for the meaningful. Every man and woman who has risen to greatness has done so by paying the price of sacrifice. They gave up idle pleasures for disciplined work, shallow distractions for deep focus, temporary ease for permanent achievement. To rise, you must embrace this law. Sacrifice is the price of greatness. Say it, write it, remember it. Sacrifice is the price of greatness. The world whispers that you can have it all without cost, that you can achieve without giving, that you can rise without letting go. This is a lie, and it has trapped countless lives in mediocrity. The truth is that every choice carries a cost, whether you acknowledge it or not. If you choose comfort, you sacrifice growth. If you choose distraction, you sacrifice progress. If you choose fear, you sacrifice opportunity. But if you choose sacrifice itself, if you willingly give up the lesser for the greater, you rise. The law cannot be escaped. Sacrifice is unavoidable. The only question is, will you sacrifice upward or downward? Think of the athlete who rises to the peak of his field. He sacrifices leisure for practice, indulgence for discipline, nights of idleness for mornings of training. But the reward is strength, mastery, and victory. Think of the student who sacrifices distraction for study, who sets aside entertainment for concentration. The reward is knowledge, skill, and opportunity. Think of the entrepreneur who sacrifices security for vision, comfort for challenge. The reward is freedom, growth, and contribution. In every field, the rising individual accepts sacrifice not as punishment, but as the gateway to greatness. The untrained mind resists sacrifice because it clings to the illusion of safety. It says, if I hold on to what I have now, at least I won't lose. But in doing so, it loses far more. The chance to rise, the chance to live fully, the chance to discover its true capacity. Comfort becomes the chain, fear becomes the prison, and mediocrity becomes the sentence. The trained mind sees differently. It understands that sacrifice is not an enemy but an ally, that it is not subtraction but multiplication, that every disciplined trade is a seed planted for future abundance. Here is another law to ingrain deeply. Every sacrifice plants a seed for a future harvest. Write it down, speak it aloud. Every sacrifice plants a seed for a future harvest. The farmer does not mourn the seed he surrenders to the soil. He knows it will return multiplied. So too with your sacrifices. Each moment of discipline, each pleasure set aside, each hour invested in growth, each temptation resisted, these are seeds, and they will return to you multiplied in strength, wisdom, and achievement. But the one who refuses to sacrifice reaps nothing, for he has sown nothing. Remember also that sacrifice clarifies vision. When you give up what is lesser, you declare to yourself what is greater. Each act of sacrifice is a statement of identity. This is who I am. This is what matters to me. This is what I rise for. And the more often you make these choices, the stronger your identity becomes. Sacrifice is not only an act of discipline, it is an act of self-definition. It shapes you into the person capable of holding the greatness you pursue. Consider for a moment how much of life's suffering comes not from sacrifice itself, but from the resistance to it. We cling, we hesitate, we fear letting go, and in that struggle we suffer. But when we accept sacrifice as natural, as necessary, the burden lifts, the pain dissolves into purpose. The act of letting go becomes a source of strength, because we know it is not the end but the beginning, not a loss but a preparation. The rising mind embraces sacrifice willingly, joyfully, as the price that opens the gates of destiny. And yet sacrifice is not demanded in great leaps all at once. It is built into the daily rhythm of life. You sacrifice by choosing to rise early, instead of sleeping in, by choosing to read instead of wasting hours, by choosing to focus instead of drifting. These small sacrifices, repeated daily, build momentum, they shape character, they forge destiny. Greatness is not built in a single act, but in thousands of sacrifices made with purpose and consistency. So let us declare together a law that will anchor you when sacrifice feels heavy. I let go of the lesser to claim the greater. My sacrifice is my seed, and my harvest is certain. Write it down, repeat it, live it. For once you embrace this truth, once you willingly pay the price of sacrifice, you will discover that the mind is lighter, the path is clearer, and the rise is inevitable. Sacrifice is not your enemy. It is the very bridge to the life you seek. The rising mind must also come to terms with the power of vision, for no one can rise without first seeing beyond where they stand. Vision is the picture of the future held in the imagination, painted with the brush of belief, and carried with the weight of conviction. Every invention, every achievement, every empire, every work of art began first as a vision in the mind of an individual who dared to see what others could not. To train your mind to rise is to train it to envision, to look beyond the immediate circumstance and grasp the shape of what could be. Without vision, you drift. With vision, you rise. Here is a law you must write and remember. Where there is no vision, there is no rise. Say it aloud, write it down. Where there is no vision, there is no rise. The man without vision is like a ship without a compass, tossed by every wind, lost upon the sea. The man with vision is like a ship with a fixed course, cutting through the waves, undeterred by storms, because he knows where he is going. Life will test you, conditions will shift, but vision provides direction. It gives meaning to sacrifice, it gives fuel to persistence, it gives reason to discipline. Without vision, all effort scatters. With vision, all effort unites. Understand that vision is not mere fantasy. It is not idle daydreaming. Vision is imagination disciplined by belief and directed by intention. It is a blueprint for reality. The architect sees the building long before the first stone is laid. The leader sees the movement long before the first follower arrives. The creator sees the finished work long before the first brushstroke touches the canvas. Vision is the seed of destiny. The clearer and stronger it becomes in your mind, the more inevitable it becomes in your life. The untrained mind rejects vision because it demands proof before belief. It says, "Show me, and then I will believe." But the rising mind says, "I believe, and then I will see." For this is the law of creation. Belief precedes manifestation. The farmer believes in the harvest before he plants the seed. The builder believes in the house before he gathers the materials. The successful believe in their vision before they see it reflected in the world. And by holding that vision, by nurturing it daily, by refusing to let it wither, they cause the unseen to become seen. Vision also acts as protection. When the winds of doubt blow, when the voices of critics rise, when the weight of fatigue presses down, the clear vision shields you. It reminds you why you began. It whispers to you in the darkness, "Rise." And that whisper carries you forward when nothing else can. Those who quit lack vision, not strength. Those who persist have vision, and that vision sustains them until the result arrives. Consider also how vision transforms identity. When you hold a vision of who you are becoming, you begin to act as that person today. You carry yourself differently, you speak differently, you choose differently, because your mind is already living in the future you have envisioned. And as you act in alignment with that vision, reality bends to match it. This is the secret of identity-based action. The mind that holds a vision of greatness will act greatly, and the life will rise accordingly. Here is another law for you to ingrain. Act now as the person you intend to become. Say it aloud, write it down. Act now as the person you intend to become. Do not wait for the world to recognize you before you recognize yourself. Do not wait for the crown before you carry yourself like a king. Do not wait for success before you walk with the posture of success. When you act in harmony with your vision, you invite that vision to materialize more swiftly. Vision must also be fed. Just as a flame requires fuel to burn, your vision requires reinforcement to grow. You feed it through daily repetition, through writing it down, through visualization, through speaking it aloud. You feed it by surrounding yourself with environments, people, and ideas that strengthen it. Neglect it, and the flame dims. Nurture it, and the flame becomes a fire that lights your path. Every morning, take time to revisit your vision, to see it vividly, to affirm it, and to recommit to it. This daily practice ingrains it into the subconscious until it becomes a certainty. So let us affirm together a law of vision that will guide you upward. I see clearly the life I am building. I hold my vision with faith, and I act as if it is already mine. Say it aloud, write it down, and repeat it often. For when vision guides your thoughts, your actions align, your identity transforms, and your rise becomes unstoppable. The mind that sees clearly is the mind that rises continually. The final truth you must ingrain if you are to train your mind to rise is this: thought without action is nothing, and action without consistency is wasted. The mind, once disciplined, once persistent, once fueled by vision and strengthened by sacrifice, must express itself through decisive action. Ideas alone do not lift a life. Beliefs alone do not build a destiny. The rising mind must become the rising life, and that happens only when thought takes shape in action, when conviction is translated into motion, and when daily deeds match inner declarations. The law is clear: you cannot think yourself into greatness without acting yourself into it. Many live in the realm of intentions. They speak of what they will do, they dream of what they might achieve, they plan endlessly but act sparingly. And so their lives remain bound by the chains of hesitation. But the individual who rises understands that every thought must be sealed with action. He knows that the smallest consistent act carries more power than the grandest unexecuted idea. He knows that movement itself creates momentum, that forward motion multiplies opportunity, and that each step taken affirms the vision held. To train your mind to rise is to train it to act calmly, confidently, consistently. Action also creates clarity. The untrained mind waits for certainty before acting, and in waiting it never begins. The trained mind acts in faith, and in acting it discovers clarity. The path unfolds to the walker, not to the dreamer. Opportunities reveal themselves to the doer, not to the doubter. You need not see the entire staircase to begin the climb. You need only take the first step with conviction. And as you step, the next step appears. This is how life rewards the rising mind, not with a map of the entire journey, but with a lamp that lights the next few feet, enough to keep you moving upward. Here is a law you must remember and declare. Action seals belief. Say it aloud, write it down. Action seals belief. Without action, belief remains theory. With action, belief becomes reality. If you believe you are disciplined, prove it by rising early, by doing the work. If you believe you are courageous, prove it by confronting fear directly. If you believe you are destined for greatness, prove it by stepping boldly each day into the habits and behaviors that build greatness. Action is proof to the subconscious that belief is true. And when belief and action align, the subconscious accepts the identity fully, and the life rises accordingly. Do not mistake activity for action. Many fill their days with busyness, with tasks that drain time but build nothing. True action is purposeful, directed and aligned with vision. It is not scattered, it is focused. It is not random, it is intentional. The rising mind chooses wisely, acts deliberately, and repeats consistently. It knows that success is not built in sudden bursts of effort, but in steady, repeated action compounded across time. Just as water carves stone through persistence, so your actions carve your destiny through consistency. Think of the law of compounding. A single penny doubled daily grows beyond imagination within a month. So too with your actions. One disciplined act, repeated daily, multiplies into habits, multiplies into character, multiplies into destiny. The untrained mind underestimates the power of small, consistent acts, but the rising mind knows that they are the foundation of greatness. Do not despise the small beginnings. Celebrate them, for they are the roots of the towering tree you are becoming. And here lies the final challenge. You must act now, not tomorrow, not when conditions seem perfect, not when you feel ready. Now, the rising mind does not delay. It knows that every delay is a seed of doubt, and every hesitation strengthens fear. The way to defeat hesitation is immediate action. The way to prove to yourself that you are rising is to act the moment conviction is born. Do not allow the spark to fade. Strike while it is alive, and let the fire carry you upward. So let us declare together this final law, the crown of all the others. I think with clarity, I believe with strength, and I act with power. My mind is trained, my life is rising, my destiny is certain. Write it down, speak it aloud, repeat it daily until it becomes your identity. For when your thoughts align with belief, and belief aligns with action, nothing in this world can keep you from rising to the heights you were created to reach. The trained mind rises, and with it, every part of life is lifted higher. Fear and doubt have kept more men and women from realizing their true potential than any lack of talent, opportunity, or education. These two unseen forces are like shadows cast across the path of success. They whisper when you hesitate, they grow when you avoid, and they anchor you in place when life demands that you move forward. The strange truth about fear is that it is rarely rooted in reality. Fear lives in the imagination, in the pictures we paint of what might go wrong. Doubt is its twin, eroding confidence, questioning every step, and convincing us that perhaps we are not ready, not capable, not worthy. Yet history reveals the opposite, that ordinary people, by mastering their minds, have overcome odds far greater than their fears. Every invention, every enterprise, every leap forward in human progress was carried out by men and women who felt the weight of fear but refused to let it dictate their actions. When we examine fear closely, we find it is simply faith turned upside down. It is faith in failure, faith in loss, faith in suffering that has not yet occurred. It is a misuse of the same mental faculty that could be turned toward faith in success, faith in growth, faith in possibility. Doubt is the natural offspring of such thinking, casting suspicion on our abilities, diminishing our courage, and persuading us to play small in a world that rewards those who dare. The mind becomes a battleground between what we know to be possible and what our anxieties project into the future. This battle is not fought with swords or machines, it is fought in the quiet chambers of thought, where you alone must decide which voices you will obey. Fear and doubt will always speak. Your task is to train your mind to listen to higher truths. If you wish to master fear and doubt, you must first understand how they work. Both are born of uncertainty, of not having made a definite decision. The man without a goal is most vulnerable to fear, for every road looks dangerous when you don't know where you are going. The woman without a vision doubts her ability because she has not clarified her desire. Clarity itself is the antidote. When you decide clearly what you want, when you fix it in your mind and impress it upon your heart, fear begins to dissolve, and doubt loses its grip. For nothing strengthens a mind like direction. And so the first step in training your mind to overcome fear and doubt is to write down in clear and specific words what you truly want. Not what you hope might happen, not what others suggest for you, but what you truly desire. A written goal becomes a compass, and with a compass in hand, the unknown road becomes navigable. Once you have that compass, the next discipline is to take action immediately. Action is the great dispeller of fear. Think of the times you have dreaded a conversation, a task, or an obligation. The hours or days spent in anticipation were far worse than the act itself. The moment you began, the weight began to lift. Why? Because fear thrives in hesitation, in the empty space where imagination exaggerates. Action shrinks fear to its actual size, and in most cases you find it was never as threatening as it seemed. This is why I tell people to act now, even in small ways. Write the letter, make the call, open the book, take the first step. Each action reinforces your belief in yourself, and with belief, doubt has no room to live. Consider how the mind responds to repetition. If you continually tell yourself you are afraid, your nervous system will obey, and your body will manifest tension, trembling, and anxiety. But if you affirm with conviction, I am strong, I am calm, I am capable, your body will likewise obey, standing taller, breathing steadier, performing with greater assurance. This is no trick, it is the natural law of the mind-body connection. We are suggestion-driven creatures, and the most powerful suggestions are those we give ourselves. This is why I encourage every listener to write down and repeat truths that counteract fear and doubt. If you say to yourself each morning, I am one with wealth and wisdom, free of fear and doubts, and you say it not casually, but as if your very life depended on it, you will ingrain it into the fabric of your thinking. In time, you will come to believe it, and in believing, you will act upon it. The ancient philosophers understood that courage was not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. A soldier marching into battle feels fear, but his training carries him forward. An entrepreneur launching a new venture feels doubt, but her commitment compels her onward. A student facing examinations feels anxiety, but preparation steadies his hand. The difference between those who succeed and those who retreat is not whether fear and doubt exist, they always exist. It is whether the individual has trained the mind to march in spite of them. Think of your mind as a muscle. It grows strong through repeated use. Each time you act in the presence of fear, each time you silence doubt by affirming your purpose, you add another strand of strength to that muscle. Do not believe for a moment that the great men and women you admire were free of these shadows. On the contrary, they battled them daily. The writer facing the blank page, the leader confronting uncertainty, the pioneer setting sail into uncharted waters. What set them apart was not freedom from fear, but fidelity to their purpose. They knew the law that your rewards in life will always be in direct proportion to the courage you demonstrate in the face of fear and doubt. Say it with me now and write it upon your paper. My rewards in life will be in proportion to my courage. If you remember nothing else, remember this. Let it become a law for you, a guiding maxim that anchors you when the winds of uncertainty blow. Now let us not ignore the truth that fear and doubt often disguise themselves as reason. You will hear the voice say, wait until you are more prepared, or perhaps you should try something easier. This voice will sound logical, even protective. But understand, the line between prudence and procrastination is thin, and fear loves to hide behind caution. Train your mind to ask, am I truly unready, or am I delaying because I am afraid? That single question, answered honestly, can break the spell of doubt and push you forward when you might have stood still. Remember, the road of hesitation is paved with missed opportunities, while the road of courage is lined with lessons, growth, and eventual triumph. I leave you now with a practice to ingrain into your life. Each morning, before you begin your work, stand before your reflection and declare, I am one with wealth and wisdom, free of fear and doubts. Speak it slowly, deliberately, and with conviction. Then write it on your notepad. For what you write, you remember, and what you repeat, you believe. Carry this law into your day. and watch as fear loses its voice and doubt loses its hold. Train your mind daily, for the mind untrained becomes a prison, but the mind trained becomes a kingdom. The choice is yours, today and every day that follows. Fear and doubt, once recognized as illusions of the mind, must be replaced with something tangible and constructive if they are to lose their power over us. Nature abhors a vacuum, and so does the human spirit. If you attempt merely to resist fear without installing a stronger thought in its place, you will discover it returns with renewed energy. The surest replacement for fear is knowledge, for ignorance is fear's greatest ally. When you do not know, you imagine. When you imagine without discipline, you create phantoms larger than life. But when you learn, when you investigate, when you replace uncertainty with understanding, the shadows shrink. The pilot flying through a storm is calm because he knows the laws of aerodynamics and trusts his instruments. The surgeon facing a complicated procedure is steady because years of practice have trained his hands. The same applies to you. Study your craft, deepen your understanding, and fear will find little foothold. Knowledge becomes the light that exposes doubt for what it is, a baseless suspicion. Yet knowledge alone is not enough. You must marry it to discipline. Fear often preys not upon ignorance, but upon the person who knows what to do yet fails to do it consistently. Consider the athlete who trains half-heartedly, who skips his regimen, who knows the price of excellence but does not pay it. Doubt will haunt his performance because he cannot trust his own preparation. In contrast, the disciplined athlete approaches competition with confidence, not because he is fearless, but because he knows he has paid the price. So it is in business, in art, in life. Discipline is the quiet builder of faith in oneself. Each day you honor your commitments. No matter how small, you strengthen your inner certainty, and certainty is the opposite of doubt. The way to discipline the mind begins with a daily routine. A routine may seem ordinary, but it is the framework within which extraordinary lives are built. Rising at a set hour, dedicating time to thought, to study, to purposeful work, creates a rhythm that steadies the spirit. Fear thrives in chaos, but order starves it. Write down your routine, commit to it, and let it become a law in your life. Remember this simple truth: your environment is a mirror of your mind. If your desk, your schedule, your days are in disarray, your mind will reflect the same confusion, and doubt will multiply. But if your environment is ordered, if your time is structured, then clarity reigns, and clarity leaves no room for fear. Another key lies in expectation. Doubt is born when the mind expects failure. But if you set before yourself a vision so clear and feed it daily, you train your subconscious to expect success. Expectation is not wishful thinking, it is the mental rehearsal of reality. The actor rehearses until the performance feels natural. The musician practices until the piece flows effortlessly. You too must rehearse success in your mind until it becomes natural to you. Close your eyes each day and see yourself achieving the goal. Imagine the steps, the challenges, the solutions, and the victory. This mental picture, repeated with discipline, impresses itself upon your nervous system until you begin to act as though it were inevitable. And when you act with inevitability, fear has no room to speak. You may ask, what of failure? Is it not a real possibility? Of course, but failure is not the enemy. Failure is tuition paid for mastery. Doubt turns failure into a final judgment, but faith turns failure into feedback. Every great inventor, every leader, every pioneer has met failure, not once but dozens, even hundreds of times. They did not see it as proof they were unworthy. They saw it as the refining fire of their vision. You must train your mind to see failure as a temporary detour, not a permanent destination. Repeat this maxim to yourself: failure is never final until I surrender. Write it down now, say it aloud, let it burn into your thinking. For the moment you accept this law, fear of failure loses its grip, and you are free to attempt, to persist, and ultimately to succeed. Let us remember also the law of substitution. A mind focused on fear cannot simultaneously focus on faith. So when fear arises, substitute it. If you fear rejection, think instead of the opportunities that await with every new introduction. If you doubt your skills, think instead of the progress you have made already and the practice that lies ahead. Replace every fearful image with one of courage, every doubtful phrase with one of confidence. The human mind cannot hold two opposing thoughts with equal power. One will dominate. You have the power to choose which one it will be. There is another law worth engraving into your heart. The mind becomes what it consistently contemplates. This is why we emphasize affirmation, why we speak of writing down truths and repeating them daily. For repetition imprints belief, and belief drives action. If every day you feed your mind with images of defeat, your actions will mirror those images. But if every day you affirm, I live in courage, I act with confidence, I expect success, then your actions will align with those affirmations and your results will follow. Take a sheet of paper now and write this sentence in bold letters. I live in courage, I act with confidence, I expect success. Speak it aloud slowly and let it become your shield against the arrows of fear. Fear and doubt thrive in secrecy, in the silence of the mind. They lose strength when brought into the open. This is why it is valuable to share your goals, your affirmations, even your fears with a trusted partner, mentor, or journal. When expressed, fear often appears smaller than it felt. When examined, doubt often reveals itself as baseless. Do not carry these burdens in isolation. Seek counsel, seek fellowship, seek the strength of others who walk the path with you. Together the shadows shrink, and together courage grows. Now let us return to the essence. Training the mind. Training is not a one-day event, but a lifetime practice. Just as muscles must be exercised, just as skills must be practiced, the mind must be disciplined daily. Each thought is a repetition. Each affirmation is a set. Each action, in spite of fear, is a victory. Over time, the mind becomes conditioned to courage the way steel is tempered in fire. Do not grow weary in this training, for the day will come when you face a challenge, and instead of fear, your first instinct will be strength. Instead of doubt, your first thought will be determination. That day will be the fruit of all your hidden labor. Write this final maxim of today's lesson, and speak it aloud as though you were engraving it into the very walls of your spirit. Failure is never final until I surrender. Let it ring in your mind, let it guide your steps, let it silence the voices of fear and doubt. For this is the truth. The man who refuses to surrender cannot be defeated. Fear and doubt can be weakened by knowledge, discipline, and expectation, but to fully overcome them, the mind must be given a higher allegiance, something greater than itself to serve. A man left only to his own strength may waver when storms rage, but the man who anchors himself to a principle, to a law, or to a purpose beyond his immediate feelings discovers an unshakable stability. It is the difference between a ship drifting in open waters and one that has dropped anchor in solid ground. The storms may come, the winds may howl, but the anchor holds. That anchor for you must be a vision of who you are becoming and the law by which you govern your life. Without it, fear will tempt you to abandon ship, and doubt will urge you to question your very course. With it, you can move steadily, even when the world is uncertain. The truth is that most people never take the time to define such a vision. They live by default, waking up each day to habits inherited from yesterday, never stopping to ask, who am I becoming? And so fear finds them unprepared, doubt finds them undefended. The man without a vision will always be subject to his emotions. The woman without a higher aim will always question her steps. But once you set before yourself a worthy ideal, once you declare to yourself, this is who I am becoming, and this is the law I live by, fear loses its sway. The mind begins to organize itself around the higher picture, and your actions find new energy. Let me ask you now, have you written your vision? Not a vague hope, but a definite statement of who you are and the life you are creating? If not, I urge you to do so today, for the vision you hold is the life you will live. Fear is quick to enter when vision is absent. Picture the farmer who fails to plant his field in spring. Summer comes and weeds fill the soil. Nature does not permit emptiness. In the same way, if you do not plant in your mind a definite picture of your future, fear and doubt will sow their weeds. The antidote is conscious planting, deliberate vision, daily reinforced. That vision repeated and affirmed becomes stronger than any fear. Say to yourself now and write it upon your page, I live by vision, not by fear. Speak it again until you feel its truth. For when your mind is trained to return to vision in every circumstance, doubt will wither and courage will grow. Another tool in training the mind is contrast. Place before yourself the reality of a life dominated by fear and compare it with the life shaped by courage. The fearful man wakes each day uncertain, hesitates at opportunity, avoids responsibility, and ends his years regretting what might have been. The courageous man feels the same hesitation but moves anyway, accepts responsibility, seizes opportunity, and ends his years with growth and contribution. The choice between these two lives is not made once, it is made daily, in every small decision. Do I act or do I delay? Do I speak or do I remain silent? Do I pursue or do I retreat? And each choice builds upon the last until a destiny is formed. Which life will you choose? The law is simple. Courage exercised today creates freedom tomorrow. Write it down, say it aloud, let it echo within you until it shapes your actions. It is also vital to recognize that fear and doubt are contagious. Spend enough time around those who complain, who hesitate, who avoid risk, and you will find your own courage weakening. The attitudes of those we spend time with seep into us like dye into fabric. If you would train your mind to courage, then surround yourself with those who live it. Seek mentors, seek companions, seek books and voices that speak of faith, vision, and determination. Guard your mind as you would guard your health, for just as you cannot drink poison and expect strength, you cannot fill your mind with fear-filled voices and expect courage. Choose carefully what you listen to, what you read, and with whom you spend your time, for as surely as iron sharpens iron, the people and ideas you absorb will sharpen or dull your courage. Doubt often disguises itself as humility. It says, I should not aim too high. I am not special enough. Who am I to attempt such a thing? But this is not humility. It is fear wearing a mask. True humility is not thinking less of yourself. It is thinking rightly of yourself. It is acknowledging that you, like every human being, have been endowed with a mind capable of great thought and a will capable of great action. To diminish that gift out of fear is not humility, but neglect. Train your mind to recognize the difference. When doubt whispers that you are not enough, remind yourself, I am equipped, I am capable, I am worthy of the vision I hold. Say it now and write it. I am equipped, I am capable, I am worthy. Let this become your shield against the false humility of fear. Let us look at how fear and doubt operate in the subtle corners of daily life. You delay the conversation that needs to be had. You put off the project that could advance your career. You hesitate to apply for the opportunity because you fear rejection. Each of these moments seems small, but compounded over months and years, they shape a destiny. And yet the reverse is also true. Each time you act in spite of fear, you weaken it. Each time you speak in the presence of doubt, you strengthen courage. Success is not a single leap, it is a series of choices stacked day after day. The man who trains his mind to say, I will act now, builds momentum that no fear can stop. The woman who trains her mind to declare, I am ready, silences the voice of doubt before it can speak. Fear and doubt feed on delay, but courage feeds on immediacy. The longer you hesitate, the stronger fear becomes. The quicker you move, the weaker it grows. This is why so many breakthroughs in life come in moments of decision. A job is accepted, a business is launched, a relationship is begun. And with that one act, the spell of fear is broken. Train yourself to act quickly when your vision is clear. Do not allow fear time to speak. Do not grant doubt a seat at the table. Move and let momentum carry you forward. Write this down and say it aloud until it becomes a reflex. Fear dies when I act quickly. Doubt fades when I move with vision. This is the law of momentum, and it will serve you as long as you live. Let us close this part with a reminder of the higher truth. Fear and doubt are not enemies to be hated, but teachers to be mastered. They arise to challenge your vision, to test your resolve, to demand that you decide who you will become. Each time they appear, they offer you a choice. Retreat or advance, surrender or grow. And each time you choose growth, you weaken their hold and strengthen your soul. So embrace the challenge, for it is the forge of your character. Say it aloud with me now, and write it so that it is etched upon your heart. I live by vision, not by fear. I choose courage daily, and I grow stronger each time I advance. This is the law. Obey it, and your life will transform. Fear and doubt, when stripped of their disguises, are signals, not sentences. They are indicators that you are approaching the edge of your comfort zone, that you are standing at the threshold of growth. To misinterpret them as final judgments is to miss their purpose entirely. A person who feels no fear is not brave, but unchallenged. A person who experiences no doubt is not certain, but stagnant. Growth carries with it the natural tension of the unknown, and that tension often arrives dressed as fear and doubt. When you recognize them not as warnings to retreat, but as invitations to advance, you begin to transform their energy into power. Imagine a miner deep in the earth, confronted with rock and resistance. The rock is not proof that treasure is absent. It is proof that treasure lies beyond. In the same way, the presence of fear is proof that you are on the verge of discovery, and the presence of doubt is proof that you are engaged in meaningful endeavor. The real tragedy is not that people feel fear and doubt, but that they let these feelings make decisions for them. Consider how many careers go unpursued, how many books go unwritten, how many businesses go unborn because fear whispered, "What if you fail?" or doubt suggested, "You are not ready." Whole lifetimes pass, and men and women reach their final days haunted not by the failures they faced, but by the chances they never took. This is the hidden cost of fear and doubt, not the pain of defeat, but the torment of regret. Ask yourself, which is heavier, the temporary sting of failure or the lifelong burden of never having tried? You already know the answer. That is why I say, train your mind to see regret as the true enemy. Failure is temporary, but regret is permanent. When you grasp this truth, you will lean toward action, for you will see that even in loss, you are gaining experience, knowledge, and strength, while in hesitation, you gain nothing but sorrow. Let us turn to the principle of identity. Fear and doubt thrive when you see yourself as fragile, inadequate, or unprepared. They vanish when you step into the identity of the person you are becoming. The subconscious mind obeys the identity you claim. If you say, "I am timid, I am weak, I am unsure," then your actions will conform to that belief. But if you affirm, "I am courageous, I am steady, I am growing," then your actions will begin to align with that identity. Identity is destiny. Train your mind to act as though you already are the person you intend to become, and in time you will be. When the athlete steps into the ring, he does not wait until the bell rings to believe he is a champion. He enters believing it already. When the leader rises to speak, she does not wait for applause to see herself as worthy. She claims it before a word leaves her lips. You must do the same. Speak it aloud and write it down. I am courageous, I am steady, I am growing. Say it until your subconscious accepts it as fact. We must also consider the role of imagination. The imagination is the most powerful tool of the human mind, but it is a double-edged sword. It can create images of triumph that pull us forward, or images of disaster that hold us back. Fear and doubt are simply imagination turned against us. The man who imagines rejection will hesitate to ask. The woman who imagines defeat will falter before she begins. Yet the same imagination, when disciplined, can paint pictures of victory, of progress, of joy, and these images impressed daily will call forth courage. The key is to direct imagination deliberately. Set aside a few minutes each day to imagine yourself overcoming the very obstacles that now produce fear. See yourself walking into the room with confidence. See yourself completing the task with competence. See yourself receiving the reward of your effort. The mind does not distinguish between vivid imagination and reality. It prepares the body for what it sees. Use this law to your advantage. Here is a practice I urge you to begin tonight. Take a blank page and write at the top, "My identity of courage." Underneath, write 3 sentences that affirm who you are becoming. For example, I act with calm confidence in every challenge. I meet fear with faith and doubt with discipline. I am becoming the person I was meant to be. Read these sentences each morning and each night. Speak them aloud. Let your imagination clothe them with images. In time, your subconscious will adjust. Your posture will change. Your habits will align and your results will follow. This is the practical way to reprogram your identity and to starve fear of its fuel. Another law to remember is this: fear thrives in darkness, but courage grows in the light of exposure. If there is something you fear, face it in small doses until it loses its power. The swimmer who fears the deep does not overcome it by reading about water. He overcomes it by stepping in inch by inch until the water supports him. The speaker who fears the crowd does not find courage in theory. He finds it by speaking, first to 1, then to 10, then to hundreds. The entrepreneur who fears risk does not conquer it by analysis alone. He conquers it by taking measured steps into the arena. Fear is a liar, but it is a liar that grows quiet when confronted. Train your mind to act in spite of trembling, and you will discover that trembling fades. Write this down: I face my fears in small steps until they lose their voice. Say it aloud and let it become part of your training. Let us also consider the law of progress. Fear and doubt love to point to how far you still must go, how much you still lack, how distant the finish line appears. But progress silences them. When you can say, "I am further today than I was yesterday," fear's argument collapses. Doubt cannot thrive in the face of measurable growth. That is why you must record your progress, however small. Keep a journal, track your efforts, celebrate each step forward. Do not despise small beginnings, for small beginnings are the seed of great achievements. The oak tree begins as an acorn. The river begins as a trickle. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Fear and doubt vanish when you can see evidence that you are advancing. Write this affirmation now: each day I advance. Each day I grow stronger. Each day I defeat fear and doubt by moving forward. There will be times when fear and doubt rise suddenly without warning, like storms over a calm sea. In those moments, your preparation must be ready. This is why we write affirmations, why we establish identity, why we rehearse in imagination. For when the storm strikes, you will not have time to build a ship. You must already be at the helm. The law of preparation is simple. Courage belongs to the prepared. And preparation is not a grand event, but a daily discipline. Each affirmation written, each vision rehearsed, each small step taken in spite of fear is preparation. And when the day of testing arrives, you will stand steady while others fall. As we conclude this part, let me give you a declaration to ingrain into your heart. Say it aloud and write it boldly on your page. I act with calm confidence in every challenge. I meet fear with faith and doubt with discipline. I am becoming the person I was meant to be. Repeat it until it is no longer a phrase but a conviction. For when identity aligns with action, fear and doubt cannot stand. Train your mind, hold to your vision, and let courage guide you into the life you are destined to live. Fear and doubt weaken most when the mind is filled with purpose. A man or woman who knows why they rise each morning, who has a clear reason to labor, to study, to strive, will not be easily shaken by the tremors of uncertainty. Purpose is the fuel of courage. It transforms fear from an obstacle into a stepping stone and converts doubt from a barrier into a question that sharpens resolve. The individual without purpose will magnify fear, for he sees no larger reason to press on. The individual without purpose will surrender to doubt, for she has no deeper anchor than her emotions. But the man with purpose, the woman with vision, they endure, they advance, they persist. Consider the mountain climber who endures freezing winds and aching muscles. Why does he not turn back? Because his purpose pulls him upward. Purpose does for the spirit what oxygen does for the body. It sustains it in moments of trial. If you are to train your mind to overcome fear and doubt, you must begin with a definite purpose, clearly written and daily rehearsed. Without such purpose, your mind drifts, and drifting minds are playgrounds for fear. Think of the ship without a rudder. It is carried by every wave, every current, every storm. But with a rudder firmly set, it moves toward its destination regardless of resistance. In the same way, your mind, when directed by purpose, becomes immune to distraction and resistant to doubt. Write your purpose on paper. Speak it aloud. Memorize it until it rings in your thoughts without effort. And when fear appears, remind yourself, I have a purpose, and it is greater than fear. When doubt whispers, answer firmly, I know where I am going, and I will arrive. This practice, repeated daily, will ingrain purpose so deeply into your subconscious that fear will be forced to retreat. The purpose must not only be clear, it must also be worthy. A selfish aim, a shallow ambition, cannot withstand the weight of adversity. Fear will topple it, and doubt will erode it. But a purpose rooted in contribution, in service, in growth, gains a strength that no storm can overthrow. Think of the teacher who endures long hours for the sake of her students, the parent who works tirelessly for the sake of his family, the leader who sacrifices comfort for the good of his people. Their fears are real, their doubts arise, but their purpose carries them through. This is why you must choose a goal that stirs your soul, that calls upon the best within you, that serves not only yourself but others. For the law is this: fear cannot survive in the presence of service. Doubt cannot stand before a purpose greater than self. Write it down and say it with me. My purpose is greater than fear. My vision is greater than doubt. Let us also examine the role of gratitude in overcoming fear and doubt. Fear thrives on what might be lost. Gratitude focuses on what is already gained. Doubt dwells on insufficiency. Gratitude magnifies abundance. When you pause each day to give thanks sincerely and deliberately, you redirect the mind away from lack and toward plenty. Gratitude reminds you that you have already overcome trials before, that you already possess strength, skills, and opportunities. This remembrance builds confidence. The fearful man forgets his victories and exaggerates his weaknesses. The grateful man recalls his blessings and magnifies his strengths. Begin each day with gratitude and you will notice fear grow quieter. End each day with gratitude and you will find doubt less persuasive. Say this aloud now and write it upon your page. Gratitude is my shield. It turns fear into faith and doubt into determination. There is also the law of substitution at work in gratitude. The mind cannot dwell on fear and gratitude at the same time. One displaces the other. When you feel doubt creeping in, pause and name 3 things you are grateful for. When fear tightens its grip, stop and speak aloud what you have already conquered. In doing so, you reorient your thinking from anxiety to assurance. This is a practice, not a single act. Repeat it until it becomes automatic. Just as a muscle responds to repeated exercise, your mind will respond to repeated gratitude until it reflexively replaces fear with faith. Remember this phrase: fear fades in the presence of gratitude. Say it slowly, let it echo, write it on your notepad. With repetition, it will become a natural response to adversity. Fear and doubt often disguise themselves as caution, but there is a great difference between wisdom and worry. Wisdom prepares, worry paralyzes. Wisdom considers risk, worry exaggerates it. Wisdom strengthens resolve, worry weakens it. Train your mind to distinguish between the two. When you prepare diligently, when you think ahead, when you act prudently, that is wisdom. But when preparation turns into endless delay, when thought turns into rumination, when action is postponed indefinitely, that is worry, that is fear in disguise. Ask yourself daily, am I preparing wisely or am I paralyzed by worry? The answer will reveal whether you are being guided by strength or bound by fear. Write this law now. I prepare with wisdom, not with worry. Speak it until it becomes your standard. Another practice for overcoming fear and doubt is deliberate exposure. Avoidance strengthens fear while exposure weakens it. Whatever you consistently avoid gains power over you. Whatever you face loses its hold. If you fear rejection, practice asking until rejection becomes unthreatening. If you doubt your ability to speak, practice speaking until words flow naturally. If you fear failure, attempt enough times until failure becomes feedback instead of catastrophe. This is how you desensitize fear, by facing it, not by fleeing it. Each small exposure builds resilience, and with resilience, doubt dissolves. Write this principle: what I face, I conquer. What I avoid, I empower. Say it aloud and commit to action. We must also acknowledge that courage is contagious. Just as fear spreads, so does faith. When you stand in courage, you give permission to others to do the same. When you silence doubt with decisive action, you inspire those around you. This is why leaders must train their minds to courage, not only for their own sake, but for the sake of those who follow. Your family, your friends, your community, they draw strength from your example. And so your discipline in overcoming fear is not selfish, it is a gift. Say to yourself, my courage strengthens others, my faith uplifts those around me. Write it, repeat it, live it, for this truth will magnify your purpose and multiply your courage. Now let us close this part with a declaration of alignment. Speak it aloud and write it so that it may ingrain itself upon your heart. My purpose is greater than fear, my vision is greater than doubt. I prepare with wisdom, not with worry. I live in gratitude and I face what others avoid. This is my law, this is my standard, this is the path I walk. Each day I strengthen it, each day I affirm it, each day I grow into it. And as I do, fear and doubt fade like shadows before the rising sun. Fear and doubt, though internal in nature, are influenced heavily by the external world you allow yourself to absorb. The voices you listen to, the environments you frequent, the information you consume, all of these act as seeds planted into the soil of your mind. If you feed daily on news of disaster, gossip of failure, and conversations dripping with negativity, do not be surprised when fear and doubt grow wild within you. But if you nourish yourself with stories of courage, with words of faith, with knowledge that uplifts and strengthens, then your mind will naturally lean toward confidence. The mind is like a field, it produces whatever is planted. This is not opinion, it is law. Guard the gate of your mind as carefully as a farmer guards his seed. Write this principle and speak it with conviction. I choose the seeds I plant, and they bear the fruit of courage. Consider the effect of association. Spend time with the timid, and timidity will spread to you. Spend time with the doubtful, and their doubts will infiltrate your spirit. But walk with those who dare, and their daring will inspire your own. Walk with those who persist, and their persistence will fuel yours. No man is immune to influence. No woman is untouched by the attitudes of her companions. This is why one of the greatest decisions you can make is to choose carefully the company you keep. If you cannot yet find courageous companions, then seek them in books, in recordings, in mentors from history. Fill your environment with the voices of courage, even if they come to you from the written page or the recorded word. Say it aloud now and write it down. I walk with courage by walking with the courageous. Another tool to train the mind is silence. In a world filled with noise, silence is power. Fear and doubt often grow loud because we have never quieted ourselves enough to observe them. We rush from task to task, drowning in distraction, and in that noise our anxieties multiply. But when you sit quietly, when you allow stillness to settle, you begin to see fear for what it is, a voice without substance. Silence exposes doubt as nothing more than passing thought. Train your mind with moments of daily silence, 10 minutes each morning, 10 minutes each evening, where you sit without distraction, breathing deeply, watching your thoughts. In that silence you will discover that fear has no roots and doubt has no anchor. Write this law now. In silence I see clearly. In stillness I grow strong. Let us turn to the principle of preparation. Doubt often rises because we are unprepared. The student who has not studied fears the exam. The worker who has not practiced fears the task. But the prepared mind meets the challenge with calm assurance. Preparation transforms fear into readiness. Doubt says you cannot. Preparation replies, I have already rehearsed this moment. This is why I urge you to prepare diligently in every area of life that matters to you. Train your skills, study your field, anticipate your challenges. Preparation is the secret to confidence. Write it and repeat it. My preparation is my power. Fear cannot stand before a prepared mind. Now let us consider the law of perspective. Fear and doubt magnify themselves when viewed up close, but when placed in perspective, they shrink. Imagine holding a small coin before your eye. It blocks your entire vision, yet when you move it away, you see it for what it is, tiny compared to the vast horizon. Fear and doubt are like that coin. When you hold them too close, they seem to fill your entire life. But when you step back, when you put them in perspective, you realize they are but small challenges against the vast canvas of your potential. Train your mind to step back. Ask, will this matter 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Most fears dissolve under such questioning. Doubts that seemed paralyzing reveal themselves as trivial. Write this truth: my perspective keeps fear small and doubt weak. There is also strength in service. When you focus too much on yourself, fear and doubt grow large. But when you turn outward, when you give your time, your skill, your energy to others, fear shrinks. Service pulls you out of your own head and places you in the lives of others. A fearful man thinking only of himself becomes paralyzed, but a man serving another forgets his fear in the act of contribution. A doubtful woman analyzing her worth may hesitate endlessly, but when she helps another, her doubt dissolves in the proof of her usefulness. Train your mind to see service not as charity, but as discipline against fear. Each act of contribution builds confidence. Each gift of service strengthens courage. Say it now and write it. In serving others, I master myself. Fear and doubt often borrow strength from the unknown. The darkness of uncertainty makes them loom larger. The antidote is curiosity. When you replace fear with curiosity, doubt with inquiry, you change paralysis into discovery. Instead of saying, what if it goes wrong? Say, what will I learn? Instead of asking, what if I fail? Ask, what will this teach me? Curiosity transforms the unknown into adventure. It makes risk into education. It turns hesitation into exploration. Train your mind to greet the unknown not with trembling, but with wonder. Write this maxim: I replace fear with curiosity and doubt with discovery. Let it guide your thoughts when uncertainty arises. Another practice is visualization of triumph. Not only imagine success in broad strokes, but rehearse in detail the very actions that now cause you fear. The speaker imagines not only the applause, but the sound of his own voice steady and strong. The entrepreneur imagines not only the profit, but the process of solving problems and serving customers. The student imagines not only the diploma, but the long nights of study completed with persistence. By rehearsing both the process and the outcome, you train the nervous system to see fear as normal and doubt as irrelevant. Visualization is mental preparation. It is rehearsal before reality. Write this law and declare it: what I see, I become. What I rehearse, I perform. Now let us seal this part with a declaration that ingrains these truths. Speak it aloud and write it upon your page. I choose the seeds I plant, and they bear the fruit of courage. I walk with the courageous, and I grow in their strength. In silence, I grow strong. In service, I master myself. I replace fear with curiosity and doubt with discovery. My preparation is my power. This is my training. This is my law, and this is the path I follow. Each day I affirm it, and each day I advance beyond fear and doubt into the life of courage I was born to live. Fear and doubt often gain their strongest hold when a person measures themselves by comparison. You look at another's success and doubt your own progress. You see another's courage and fear your own hesitation. Yet comparison is a thief, robbing you of confidence and replacing it with envy or inadequacy. The truth is that every life is unique, every path distinct. To compare yourself to another is like comparing the oak tree to the rose. Each has its own design, its own timing, its own beauty. The oak grows slowly, deeply, with strength that endures storms. The rose blooms quickly, brightly, with fragrance that delights. Neither is better, only different. And so it is with people. Train your mind to measure only against your own progress. Ask not, am I as successful as he, but rather, am I stronger than I was yesterday? Ask not, am I as courageous as she? but rather, am I more faithful to my purpose than I was last year? Write this law now. I measure myself only by my progress, not by comparison. Another way fear and doubt deceive is through the illusion of perfection. You tell yourself, I must have every detail planned before I act. I must be fully ready before I begin. This illusion paralyzes more dreams than outright failure ever could. Perfection is a mirage. It recedes as you approach. The great works of humanity, the cathedrals, the inventions, the discoveries, were not born of perfect conditions, but of imperfect men and women who began with what they had and refined as they went. Progress, not perfection, is the antidote to fear. Action, not endless planning, is the cure for doubt. Say this aloud and write it boldly. Progress is my aim. Perfection is an illusion. I act and I improve as I go. Let this law release you from the chains of hesitation. Let us turn to the principle of resilience. Fear often warns you that you will not survive the trial. Doubt tells you that one failure will end you, but resilience proves both wrong. Resilience is the capacity to endure, to rise after falling, to bend without breaking. It is the quiet assurance that no matter what happens, you will continue. When you embrace resilience, fear loses its threat, for you know that even if you fall, you will rise. Doubt loses its sting, for you know that even if you fail, you will learn. Resilience is born of perspective and practice. The child who falls 100 times before walking develops resilience. The apprentice who stumbles through mistakes before mastery develops resilience. And so must you. Write it down. I rise each time I fall. I learn each time I fail. Nothing can stop me who refuses to stop. Fear and doubt often strike hardest in solitude. The mind alone magnifies shadows, exaggerates risks, and entertains lies. This is why fellowship is powerful. When you share your vision with trusted companions, when you walk with those who encourage, when you surround yourself with people of faith and courage, your own strength multiplies. Isolation magnifies fear. Connection magnifies courage. The man who faces a trial alone trembles. The man who faces it with brothers and sisters at his side steadies. The woman who doubts herself alone hesitates. The woman who shares her doubts with a mentor finds reassurance. Train your mind to seek fellowship, to find allies, to build community. Say this now and write it. In fellowship, my courage multiplies. In connection, my doubts dissolve. We must also address the law of patience. Fear and doubt are impatient. They demand immediate results, and when results do not come quickly, they whisper that failure is certain. But patience is the shield that guards against this deception. Patience says, I am willing to endure, for I know the seed takes time to grow, the harvest takes time to ripen, the goal takes time to unfold. Patience silences fear by acknowledging the natural rhythm of progress. Patience quiets doubt by trusting that steady effort brings inevitable reward. Train your mind to accept the pace of growth. Write this affirmation: my patience protects me. I trust the process. I persist until the harvest comes. Fear and doubt also exploit fatigue. The tired body and weary mind are fertile ground for anxious thoughts. This is why rest is not laziness, but strategy. Just as the athlete must rest to grow stronger, the thinker must rest to stay sharp, the leader must rest to remain clear. Fatigue distorts perspective, making small problems seem insurmountable and tiny delays seem catastrophic. But a rested mind sees clearly, decides wisely, and acts boldly. Train your mind to honor rest as part of discipline. Write this truth: rest is renewal, not retreat. My strength is multiplied when I restore myself. There is another truth, often overlooked. Laughter weakens fear and joy dissolves doubt. A light heart is not a careless heart, it is a strong one. Fear thrives in gloom, but it cannot stand in the presence of joy. Doubt multiplies in heaviness, but it fades when the spirit is lifted. Learn to smile in adversity, to laugh even when things go wrong, to carry joy as a shield. The joyful man frightens fear, for he cannot be shaken. The joyful woman silences doubt, for she refuses to surrender her spirit. Say this now and write it down. My joy is my strength. My laughter is my weapon. With joy I overcome fear. Let us not forget that courage grows most when shared. Teach others what you are learning. Encourage them when they are afraid. Remind them of truths when they doubt. In lifting another, you strengthen yourself. In teaching courage, you confirm it within. The law is simple. Whatever you give multiplies. Give courage, and courage returns to you. Give faith, and faith is doubled. This is the discipline of legacy, the training of the mind that thinks not only for itself, but for generations to come. Write this maxim: I multiply courage by giving it. I silence doubt by uplifting others. As we close this part, let us ingrain these truths with a final declaration. Speak it aloud and write it firmly upon your page. I measure myself only by my progress, not by comparison. Progress is my aim, perfection is an illusion. I rise each time I fall. My patience protects me, my rest renews me, my joy strengthens me. In fellowship my courage multiplies, and in service my doubts dissolve. I multiply courage by giving it. This is my law, this is my rhythm, this is my victory. Each day I affirm it, each day I embody it, each day I live it until fear and doubt have no home in me. Fear and doubt will never vanish entirely, for they are woven into the fabric of the human condition. They appear at the edge of every new challenge, the threshold of every worthy pursuit, the beginning of every untraveled road. But their presence is not a curse. It is a signal. It tells you that you are alive, that you are stretching beyond what is known, that you are entering territory where growth is possible. The mistake is not in feeling fear or hearing doubt. The mistake is in obeying them. A well-trained mind does not deny their voice. It acknowledges them, then moves forward regardless. This is the essence of courage, not absence of fear, but mastery of it. Write this law now. Fear may speak, but I do not obey. Doubt may whisper, but I do not listen. Say it aloud until it becomes second nature, a shield in every moment of decision. The life you desire lies on the far side of fear. Every man who has ever risen from obscurity, every woman who has ever achieved greatness, has walked through a doorway guarded by fear and doubt. They did not wait for the guardians to leave, they advanced anyway, and in advancing discovered that the guardians were illusions. The moment you step forward, the shadow vanishes. The instant you act, the whisper grows silent. You must see your life in this light. Every opportunity, every achievement, every destiny you seek is guarded by these shadows, and the only way through is to train your mind to act in their presence. Courage is the toll at the gate of greatness, and those who refuse to pay it remain forever outside. Say this to yourself now. I act in spite of fear. I advance in the presence of doubt. You must understand that fear and doubt are not only obstacles, but also mirrors, revealing what you value most. You fear losing what you most desire. You doubt where you most long to succeed. Instead of resenting this, use it as guidance. Where fear arises, there lies your true calling. Where doubt lingers, there lies your greatest growth. The man who fears speaking in public often carries within him a message the world needs to hear. The woman who doubts her ability to lead often possesses gifts that will shape lives if she steps forward. Train your mind to read fear as a compass, to read doubt as direction. Write it now. Fear points me to my calling. Doubt directs me to my growth. This shift alone will transform your perspective forever. Let us remember also the law of persistence. Courage is not a single decision, but a daily discipline. One act of bravery is not enough to build a life of freedom. You must rise each day and choose courage again. You must face fear at every level of growth, and you must silence doubt with each new step. Persistence is the quiet hammer that breaks the stone. Each strike may seem small, but in time, the stone cracks. Each act of persistence chips away at fear, chips away at doubt, until nothing remains but the clear path forward. Say this aloud and engrave it on your page. I persist daily. My persistence defeats fear. My persistence silences doubt. It is vital that you see your life as a story being written. Fear and doubt are not the authors. They may appear as characters, but they do not hold the pen. You do. Every decision you make, every step you take, every word you speak adds a line to your story. The question is simple. Will your story be one of hesitation or one of courage? Will it be marked by retreat or by advance? Train your mind to see yourself as the author, and you will take ownership of your narrative. Fear loses its power when you see that it cannot write your ending. Doubt fades when you realize it cannot hold the pen. Write this truth: I am the author of my life. Fear and doubt have no say in my story. The culmination of all this training is freedom. Freedom from hesitation. Freedom from paralysis. Freedom from the invisible chains that bind so many. This freedom is not given. It is earned through disciplined thought, repeated affirmation, steady progress, persistent action. You will know you have attained it when fear may appear, but it does not halt you. When doubt may whisper, but it does not sway you. When you move forward with calm confidence, knowing that you are master of your mind, that freedom is the birthright of every person, but it is claimed only by those who train daily. Write this final law and speak it with all conviction. My mind is trained. I live in freedom. I walk in courage. I create my destiny. As you go from here, remember that the world does not reward fear, nor does it honor doubt. It rewards courage. It honors faith. It crowns persistence. The men and women who rise to greatness are not those who never trembled, but those who trembled and advanced. They are not those who never questioned, but those who questioned and acted anyway. Let your life be counted among them. Each morning declare your laws. Each day act in their power. Each evening reflect on your progress. In time, fear will find no foothold, and doubt will find no voice. Now let us seal this journey with a declaration to engrave upon your heart, your mind, and your spirit. Speak it aloud and write it boldly as though it were your oath. Fear may speak, but I do not obey. Doubt may whisper, but I do not listen. I act in spite of fear. I advance in the presence of doubt. Fear points me to my calling. Doubt directs me to my growth. I persist daily. I author my story, and I live in freedom. This is my law. This is my creed.